Guys, have you ever mourned a character so hard that their ghost shows up and haunts you? Well, because of that, Jackie's Force Ghost has been haunting me, so I had to step out. I went on a little toy hunt. Went on a little, go spending spree, spend some money. I'm on vacation, and Jackie won't let me sleep at night by screaming, I was horribly murdered on screen. And so I decided to leave for a minute. And I did, Dom and I do these hunts from time to time.
Sure.
I was with Dom. I was a friend of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And the friend of the show saved the day at some point, and we'll bring that up for the end. Because Dom doesn't even know about this.
Yeah, I don't know the whole story. Yeah.
So Dom and I's favorite hobby is sorry, Jackie threw something. Dom and I's favorite thing to do back when we worked together in this little crappy movie store we've talked about before was movie hunt, and it's that wonderful time of year, not 4th of July, but
Sure.
the Criterion sale.
Yeah.
So first grab here is the 4K of David Lynch's Blue Velvet.
Very cool.
Very nice. Yes, I've been after this for a minute. Finally got it. After that, I've never seen this movie, but I've heard things about it. Dark Water, the 4K
Nice.
that came out. It's written by the guy who wrote the story, wrote the Ring.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit of a comic book guy, so we got some comic stuff. Don't worry, there's Star Wars, so we save that for the end.
All right. Fair enough.
As Jackie is flashing lights at
For
me,
the audio listeners, Josh has Force Ghost Jackie behind him.
Yes, I do. And she's flashing a light at me like I'm in a David Lynch film. There we go. Yeah, that's just fine. So the little comic history. Dom, I don't know if you know too much about this stuff, but this is something I've been after for a minute. I found out a comic shop that just recently opened. This is Swamp Thing 25.
Yeah.
And a little controversy to this issue is, so this is considered the first cameo of John Constantine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, technically, his first full cameo, supposedly.
Okay.
So there's a little controversy to this.
Yeah.
His first full cameo is Swamp Thing 37, which I do own. But I never owned this one, and people will argue that this is his first appearance. Why people say that is Alan Moore was obsessed with the idea of someone looking like Sting and being a musician.
Yeah.
There's the guy that looks just like Sting in the background, and people say that's like the first appearance of Constantine.
I see.
But it's not Constantine. It's kind of like I own the prototype of him in this comic. So I've been after this for a minute, found it for a really good price, so I picked it up.
Awesome.
No surprise to the kids at home. I'm a very big Space Ghost fan. I found this beautiful foiled edition of issue 2.
Yeah, that was meant for you.
The new Werewolf by Night series. There we go.
That's
Scooby-Doo styled. He is a Kid Cudi fan. That's the main reason why I bought it.
That's dope.
He opens up by saying, "Call me Mr. Solo Dolo." So there's a new Space Ghost series out, and it's like ruining my life.
Yeah.
So they did this really cool Spider-Man cover. Yep, there we go.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can see it now. Yeah,
that's very
awesome.
Nice. Another foil. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, that one's. Yeah,
I turned into a ghost. There we go. Then we got another foil where he's fighting Zorak.
Oh yeah.
Very neat. And a foil of him as Spider-Man again, but
cool.
it's foiled, shiny and expensive. Now to the Star Wars. You all like Star Wars. That's why we're here.
That's why you're here.
So, speaking of Force Ghosts, I found this wonderful little Force Ghost Yoda Black Series. I don't own a Yoda in my collection, really. So I figured I'd throw this one in because, Return of the Jedi.
I don't either. Isn't that crazy? Like, I actually...
Yeah.
Well, no. That's not true. Never mind. I say that as I got a counter Yoda right there. Never mind. I'm sorry, folks. But yeah, no, Yoda's not one I go after as much as I probably should, though, to be fair.
Same. But I mean, it's Return of the Jedi styled, so...
I love it.
Why not?
They put out a Kenner pack of, I think it was all 3 of them. Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Anakin. I always was kind of thinking about grabbing myself, so...
So this is a bigger item, so I got to go a little off screen here to get it. But it's speaking of Return of the Jedi. All right. I am a huge fan and collector of the Black Series. The Hot Toys.
Yeah.
This is the Hot Toy Jedi Knight Luke.
It's awesome.
Has a super neato wired cloak, so you can move the hood, open them up. The only caveat to this is this is kind of like this is like a $400 one because it sold really well. He's missing all his accessories, but I got him for a good price. It'll be a fun project to collect them all. Collect them all and all that. But for right now, he'll be displayed like this, kind of like he's meditating.
It's still a great figure. I mean,
yeah. And he has a pretty cool base. It looks like he has like stuff behind him and all that. So he'll be right next to my Anakin.
Awesome.
And so to the piece of resistance, Dom is saying you don't know about.
Yeah.
So I had to do a stop at my local Walmart to pick up a new razor. Mine broke, and begrudgingly I went in there to get it. In front of the show, Keaton was supposed to be in the toy department, and he goes, "Hey, look behind you."
Yeah.
And Dom.
Yeah.
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
Wow.
Yep. She was just sitting right there on the shelf.
Holy cow. That's not out yet.
No, it is not.
The mouse is coming for you.
They had the whole wave.
Wow.
Yeah, I was there. I literally grabbed it from him, hissed at him like a cat.
Yeah.
And danced around the store happily.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so the ghost of Jackie also was haunting me so much that I found her toy that's supposedly not supposed to be out for a couple more months.
Damn.
But they had the whole wave there, but they only had one of each.
I am so envious.
Yeah, what is going on? I don't know what she's doing to that light, but absolutely, I'm so happy with this figure. She has they're back to the original Black Series box, which is something I know you're more of a fan of.
Yeah. I love that box. Yes, I saw it online and I'm getting it.
I love that she has the cloth cape or the cloth cloak. There's a little character bio on her on the back.
Amazing.
At the end of the High Republic era, former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces that they confront turn out to be more sinister. Okay, so it's not about Jackie on the back, it's just a little synopsis of the show. But friend of the show, Keaton, who found this, pointed out something which I thought was rather rude. Let's see if I can get her to appear. There we go. It says Padawan Jackie.
Yeah.
And he goes, what? Implying like she would have grown up. And I thought that was rather rude. He didn't need to say that.
Yeah.
So that was my little haul. I actually just got home. That's why things are a little chaotic. Oh, I got this nice mug too. It says Meowdy Partner. And it's got a little chunky cat.
That's funny. That's awesome, dude. That's a good haul. The Jackie was a surprise. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Knowing that you can't yet order it online, you have to pre-order. So that's incredible that you were able to find one.
I was worried too because I was gonna scan it. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna say street dated or something. And when I scanned it, it just said action figure.
I am a little legitimately scared about the mouse coming for you, but that's about it.
It's your channel, sir. So he'll be coming for you for me debuting this figure.
That's a good point. Well, yeah, thanks for that. Anyway, we are here to talk about the Acolytes. Again, it's going to be a spoiler review, a couple news stories. Welcome back to Starlight Shadows. I'm Don Martino, and that is Josh Richards. And
with a way less bank account than he had earlier.
Yes, lighter Josh Richards, because the wallet just got a little, lost a little weight in the wallet there. Pretty cool. But also,
it's
sad.
worth it.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
It's the little things in life.
I agree, man. I agree. If you can't spoil yourself once every so often, you would just go insane, I think. And you and I are obviously both very guilty of doing that to each other once in a while, as far as taking care of ourselves, making sure that we are always stocked with toys. I
live in a toy store.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. But so this episode, The Acolyte, is called Teach Corrupt. It was directed by Hanel M. Culpepper, who never did an episode yet. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about this one. I think that there's a lot to discuss, but at the same time, it's not as meaty as last week. But we're going to basically break this one up, I think, into 3 parts, starting with the Vernestra stuff, and then we have Vernestra Jedi Council, I should say, stuff, and then we're going to go right into the Soul and what was it? Soul and May, and then Osha and the Stranger to end us, since that was the meteor stuff in the episode. So yeah, man, I will talk about my thoughts. So let's start with Vernestra, because I think that this is where you and I are both going to have the real gripes of this episode. We'll get the big negatives out of the way anyway. But anyway, actually, let's do this. Let's just go ahead and say our overall thoughts on the episode. Then we can start diving into spoilers as we usually do.
Hold on, this is gonna bug me the whole episode. Is that a VHS of Breakfast at Tiffany's right beside you?
Yes, it is. Yeah, yes, sir. And
That's
Evil
so
Dead
cool.
2's above it. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, I never noticed the Tiffany's. I knew about Evil Dead 2. I just didn't know yet.
No, I switched it out. That's why you haven't seen it before.
Gotcha.
I just switched it out. I've had the VHS, but I decided to reorganize over here just a little bit.
Yeah, freshen up. Yeah, I've never seen that box art. I'm like, wait a minute, that's different.
Yeah, no, I love it. It fits me, that's for sure, to have there because of my love for that film and Audrey Hepburn and all that. That's a podcast for another time for sure. But we did want to dive into our overall thoughts. So I know you and I this time were probably the most far apart than we've ever been on this episode, I think.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I actually, this is my favorite one of the series. I loved this episode, and I thought it was... Just to give an overall quick little thing, without spoilers, I was happy that it finally slowed down and focused on character instead of rushing, even though, yes, the runtime was slower, the runtime was shorter. It was slower and felt more paced out, more fleshed out, better. And I just enjoyed spending time with these characters, being the characters, and then also just bringing some of them from one place to the next, which we'll get into. And then, I do have my little gripes. I think that a couple of these characters are still quite underwritten, and that's a bummer to me, because I think that there's a lot of potential for a lot more. But I do look at it as like an overall show problem and less a problem with this episode. If I'm just speaking on my experience with this episode, it was my favorite one. But yeah, anyway, Josh, go ahead. What'd you think?
So, in Superman, they go to the Bizarro world.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to be the Bizarro of that review. It's my least favorite one.
Yeah.
I am not a fan whatsoever of that episode. There's things that I like. They're few and far between, but this episode, it was not for me. I was not happy with it. I think this should have been the third episode of a show, not the third to last.
Yeah.
Like, it just, I don't know. I'm not. The things that happened this episode needed to happen, but I don't think it should have been a whole episode. Mm-hmm.
Not that it's, we dive too much into outside reviews outside of ours, but like just to give like both sides of the spectrum, it is very interesting, the response I've heard this week, because I've heard a lot of people that haven't been happy with the show like this episode. For some reason, they like this one and then not any of the others. And then, like my mother, for example, who's been happy with the show the whole time, didn't like this episode, right? And then you, who I'd say has been mixed on the show the entire time, and same with me, I've been mixed on the show the entire time. I like the show. I think it's a good show. I just don't think it's great yet. Like I said, I got to see the rest of it. And you've been meh on the show. It's interesting how far apart we came on this one, but because a lot of the time we have agreed on these episodes. Like I think we have a lot of the same gripes, a lot of the same strengths, and then here we are, we're further apart, which is fine. Just, it's all subjective, but at the end of the day, but we can dive into it. And like I said, let's start now in spoilers with Vernestra and the Jedi stuff, because again, I think that this is the worst part of the episode, and I think we'll both agree on that. Vernestra and this show is just not working, unless they can find some major purpose for her, and even then I think that she's been miscast, and this really showed it to me, like how miscast she actually was. I don't know how good this actress is. I heard she was really good in Russian Doll, the Leslye Hedlund's other show. But yeah, for me, like as far as her playing Vernestra, it's just a huge miscast. There's a lot of missed opportunity. I even found the writing for her to be the weakest this time around. Like I didn't have a lot of writing gripes when I first watched this episode, and now I got a few more. Which that was one of the things. There is less writing gripes this week that I have than most episodes. That's one thing I could say. But with her, I don't think any of it was very good. I mean, we're talking the part, and I know that this was a thing from the books, but it doesn't matter. It didn't translate to the show, where the gentleman told her that I don't even know the other Jedi's name that was talking to her, but he said something like, "You get nauseous when you travel through hyperspace," and she's like, "I don't get sick." I'm like, what is this? Like, I know that's a trait of hers from the book, but the way they decided to portray it on the screen, that writing was rough, man. And
it didn't feel organic.
Yeah, I do think that the light whip was a letdown, just because she used it to kill the bug. And
yeah, it's like, okay, like it's literally, it's kind of what I predicted. It's not exactly, but I said, this is something in the trailer that really won't be anything, or something they just added in the trailer to get people excited, but it won't be there, kind of like Hulk was in game. And this, she did it. I'm like, that's the scene, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, like they put money into that.
Well, it's not only that; it's
they cashed in on the bug twice. How do you do that?
It's the first time we're seeing a light whip in live action in Star Wars, and so I thought that there was a real big opportunity there to do something better than going back to the bugs again. And it's like, how many times do we have to keep circling back around to these bugs? You know what I mean? And it's like, like last week, I was happy with the utilization of them because it improved something from the week prior. Like, they used it last week to pay off something from the week prior, and it was like, okay, that's cool. But this week, like, I understand they're on Kofar and the bugs are there, but that was just poor utilization of the light whip for the first time around, the first introduction of it, and it's such like a. Especially as a book reader, it's such a big part of Ernestra, and it's like I've heard Leslye Hedlund say how much she was trying to sell people on these High Republic books, like she was hoping that the show would get them into the publishing. And I gotta say, like, even though I think that there are a lot of cool things she's introducing into the story, ain't none of it from the High Republic books. Like, you're not doing a good job of doing the reverse, where you're getting people to want to go back in time and read those books and to see what led up to this. You're just kind of showing them the forward path and getting them interested in that, rather. And so that's one of my big issues. It's a show problem, but also in this episode, like, that mixed with the bad writing didn't really work. We saw, and in this scene as well, we saw dead Jackie, and then we saw dead Yord. And then, that was like, to me, I was looking at that and I was like, I guess it's not mismarketing, to have like Daphne Keene on the poster, though. She is in 6 out of 8 episodes, technically.
Yeah. She's forever here, though.
Yeah. And again, I didn't mind seeing the dead bodies, and like, I'm just wondering how that all leads, like, from a lore perspective into, again, I'm starting to get curious myself of, do the Jedi just cover this up? It sounds like they might, do they just cover up the fact that, here's some dead bodies with some lightsaber wounds, and I know that the one Jedi even had the conspiracy, maybe it was Master Soul, like, who killed them all.
That's a mighty strong, accusation.
And I'm like, this is terrible writing. Like, this isn't getting us anywhere, like, this stuff.
The thing was her is, I don't know if it's just the actress I'm assuming she's good, because I know a lot of people. Dollhouse was an FX show, wasn't it?
I'm sorry, Russian Doll. Russian Doll is Netflix.
Russian Doll, yeah.
Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, it's Netflix. Okay. Mm-hmm. I thought it was an FX show, but still, I've heard things about it. I've heard it's good.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a great show. I haven't watched it.
I feel like she doesn't really know much. I don't want to sound like those people, but she doesn't know much about Star Wars. And she hears that Jedi are stoic, and she just comes off wooden.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to run over to with you today, and I kind of forgot to mention this up top. Leslye Hedlund just did an interview that I watched, and there was a couple points I grabbed from that I wanted to kind of run through, because it got me a little bit curious on certain things for sure that have happened in the show. There's one point in particular that she made that I think might explain a whole lot about where we've kind of gone in the show in certain areas. So I will get to that though later. We'll circle back around to that. Anyway, but yeah, man, I with this Vernestra stuff, you have my blessing. I mean, I agree with you. This is not working, that part of it. Like, I do kind of wish we got to dive into it. Was like, I was happy we got the Slaughterfest with the Jedi last week, but it kind of came at a high price, because now we got like 2 Jedi left to follow in this whole show. like, or 3, I guess, total Jedi left to follow in this whole show, it feels like. And it almost feels like that scene in Deadpool where he's like, looks like the studio couldn't afford another X-Men.
Yeah.
That's how it feels every time we're at Coruscant, and you just see like a limited amount of Jedi running around, and it's like, oh man, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, and we'll see, and I'll give it 2 more episodes to do this. Just as much as Luke Skywalker made sense in the Mando finale, Yoda makes sense to be in the show. That would be good fan service. It's not like that wouldn't be bad fan service to have him there. It just makes sense that he's there. At least at this point, he needs to be there somewhere, and the fact that he is not any part of this, I'm not trying to be a fanboy here, but it's the truth. Like, it just, think about it from a time period perspective, it just makes sense. So the stuff with Coruscant and Vernestra and all the rest of the Jedi that are there, it's not working. And I gotta say, nothing against these people that took these smaller roles too, but they're not selling me as Jedi either. Because as you were saying, Josh, it's like it does feel like Leslye Hedlund was like, oh, I guess because Jedi were speaking a little bit more stoic in Phantom Menace, like I guess that's how they all need to be. And I always go back to your great point that you made. I think it might have been on our first episode where you're like, storytelling has evolved. Like,
yeah.
we need to try to, like, if you want to be a new creator, there's certain things you want to keep, but like if you really want to be like a new creator, I think the Ahsoka series just did it the best, where it was like I thought Filoni had a really good balance of like keeping some of the things that George did in terms of the way that he would have Jedi act and things, like but also like putting his own spin on it. Like I thought Ahsoka had a perfect balance of that, the George Lucas feeling, but also Dave putting his own little bit of himself in that too, and his own stories and his own characters, and like when you see Ahsoka or Sabine or Ezra on screen, they still feel like they just have so much life, and then there's so much. They just feel so alive. And like anytime I'm spending time with Jedi in this, with the exception of Soul, they all just feel like, I don't know, man. It's like it's like
they're just wooden. There aren't like, what's that? Back like Star Wars figures, the clone troopers, it would be like, oh, the build an army.
Yeah,
it would just be random figures that you could get to build the army. There you go. That's what they are.
It feels like if they put you or I in Star Wars, and
yeah,
like we're not actors, man.
We'd be tagging Bink.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just yeah, true.
But what's crazy is was it Vernestra? Is that her name?
Vernestra, yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is crazy. She's like the poster child for these books, right?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think it's more Avar Chris, and there's a lot of great characters in those books. But
I didn't know, because that's one I know of because of this. I didn't know she's supposed to be like the poster child.
Yeah, my personal favorite is like Loden Greatstorm from those books, and then like that's another Jedi. Keaton would love that Jedi. He's kind of like Kit Fisto, but people that's to me is the best character of those books. Avar Chris is a big one because that was like people, you might roll your eyes at this, I don't know, some people were like fan casting like Brie Larson to be Avar Chris for a while, which actually, to be fair, like I do think Brie Larson's been miscast in certain projects. She would actually fit Avar Chris if she was to ever do a Star Wars thing. That does fit. Like there's a lot of great characters, is my point. And the first book, actually, when I read Light of the Jedi, I actually had to take notes because there was so many characters getting introduced in the first High Republic book, and you had to I had to take notes just to keep up. It's like watching Game of Thrones. There's just so many characters. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So dude, your little Yoda thing there, you know how I would do it.
Yeah.
They hand me a pen and paper. Do you remember the 2004 Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movie?
Yeah.
So do you remember they're like, oh, it's a blessing, it's a miracle. And he looks out the window and goes, yeah. Or maybe it's something else.
Yeah.
I want Yoda to basically say that, like, oh, it was a Jedi out there. He goes, or maybe it was something else. If they just stole that line, it'd be fine.
It'd be a good way to almost end it. Like, honestly.
Acolyte.
Yeah. I think it wouldn't be the greatest ending, but at this point, when you only got 2 episodes left, I'm a little bit more nervous, I think, in the final stretch here. I think that they have plenty of time to wrap up the mysteries and Osha and May and all that. In the final stretch, my bigger worry is lore, just greater lore. That's my bigger worry for the final stretch of it. But That'd be my gripes there. I guess we can start to move into, speaking of Jedi, Soul and May and everything going on there. So I will say I was very thrilled by the end of this thing to know that he did know it was May, and that it was like, okay, he wanted her on the ship because he was like, you know, there's something he wants to say to her, and we'll figure that out, I guess, next week. But I was like at least happy about that. I loved all the Basil stuff here. That, you know, I'm a Basil stan at this point. I love that character. That guy just cracks me up, and I thought it was hilarious, and just thoroughly enjoying that. So yeah, that I thought worked, and I thought the stuff with him and May, it was funny. I laughed. Like, I know some people found it cheesy, but it's like, to me, that's it plays a little bit more into like Ewok territory, like campy fun, you know, that kind of thing. What I do think that May is completely underdeveloped. I have no reason to really care at this point about May, and it sucks because, you know, it's like, I think there was a lot of potential there, especially like, I think that what this episode did do is it gave me a lot more for Osha and a lot more to care about with Osha. And I wish that they would have just delivered that same attention to May. My impression of May right now, and I think, I don't know if this is how they're meaning for her to come off, but if I had to like give my overall take on this character at this point, it's like Osha grew up with the Jedi, so she had like guardianship her whole life, so she feels a little bit more, well, I wouldn't say completely stable, but she just feels a little bit more like grounded in reality. And I think that this is what they're going for, and it's not translating right, because I think what they're going for with May is to have her feel like she still has like the mind of a child, because she didn't really grow up with any kind of guardianship, and in which case she has no maturity. But I don't think it's translating right with May.
She comes off very manic.
Yeah, I agree.
And like her pretending to be Osha,
yeah,
she just plays it so weird. Like, I don't know if that was bad acting. It's on purpose that she's supposed to be coming off that way.
Yeah.
It just, the whole situation, like, that just feels very weird. The Basil saying his little Die Hard story, and I like Basil.
Yeah.
Or Basil, whatever the hell his name is.
I loved all that, but yeah.
It just felt like padding for a show that's shorter than an episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Like I've been watching a show recently called Normal People.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of, like, I hate to be like this guy, but the amount of storytelling that show tells in 22 minutes versus the 22 minutes this show tells, you get so much character in those 22 minutes. It feels like I'm watching a tiny movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's crazy. These two shows have the same runtime. And it's like, well, funny or Normal People, not Funny People, that's a different movie. Normal People has just a very straight story. It's very, knows what it wants to do. This, the weird padding of him crawling around Die Hard style. And it just, like, when he falls down and Saul's like, oh, yeah, he shoots her with the taser gun, and he's just back to like, well, that went nowhere. Cool, thanks. And the one thing, I know you haven't got to it yet, but I thought it's my biggest gripe. Shows do this a lot. The non-organic padding of, like, he's talking and he's about to confess something, and then the lights turn back on. And they just kind of look at each other and he goes, I'm going to go upstairs now.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. Like, it doesn't feel organic, doesn't feel real. It just feels, it's like, oh, they're drawing that line. They're drawing the string.
Yeah.
Oh, keep following this trail. But it's like, it just have them say it at this point. Like,
I get you. Yeah. I mean,
like, I hate that. It happened twice. Lights going off and lights going on, where he stopped what he's about to say.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to kind of sort out, because in my head, it's like when I was watching it in the episode, it really landed with me. But I don't disagree with the padding point, because at the same time, it's like, okay, in a different show, you know, like, in a different show where we got a lot more, like, let's say we got to episode 6 here, and like a lot more was already developed, like, and we got a lot further, and then they decided to do these cute little moments or whatever with Basil. Your experience might have changed, because you're like, okay, we can spend a little time doing this now, you know, because we don't have a lot to wrap up. But in this show, we obviously do still have a lot more to tell, and we got 2 more episodes left. So I guess what I'm saying is I understand your point of view, but if I'm saying like me judging it from this episode, it landed. So I can't really, I'm torn on that, I guess, you know. I don't think you're wrong to feel that way, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm expecting next week for him to be like, all right, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
And he's like, he comes in and she's like, so what happens? And then you hear a loud buzzer noise go off. And then he's just talking over it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, oh, what did he say? Like, I think that's what they're going to do next.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't, it just felt, as we talked about earlier, storytelling has evolved and TV shows have evolved. This felt like something a TV show would do back in the day to get me to watch it next week. Like, and these Star Wars shows shouldn't really be that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, oh, find out next week. It's like, no, just do it. Just tell it how you want to tell it.
I think that sometimes they're getting stuck, and again, this is like with other shows that they've done too. I think sometimes they still are getting kind of stuck in that George Lucas Flash Gordon serial thing, you know. I think that they're kind of trying to balance that with I'm not making an excuse for it, I'm just telling you what I think the mindset is, which is I think they're trying to balance that in way too much. I can't stop going back to your point where you say storytelling's evolved, you know, and we just can't do that every time. Like it's you gotta like really have a good handle on it if you're gonna do something like that, which again I go back to like first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, I think did have a really good handle on that, you know, Flash Gordon serial storytelling, you know, that collaboration of Favreau and Filoni. I think that balance just worked in those first 2 seasons, and I think Leslye Hedlund maybe perhaps was trying to do that, and I'm sure that I'm not saying Filoni ruined the show or anything, but I'm saying I think Dave Filoni does try to impart that on every creator that comes through now that he's CCO, but I also don't think that every creator is right for it, you know, and in this case, I can see what you're saying, and I don't think that you're right. I don't think Leslye Hedlund is great with that sort of, you know, faster, more intense style, which I don't know, again, if that is Filoni or not. I'm just saying I do think that every creator that comes through is influenced to try to do that type of thing, you know. And like I was actually listening to an interesting thing the other day. It was an interesting podcast where they were kind of bringing up certain creators where they were like, you know, they were like, hey, we, you know, and by the way, it was a podcast that was actually pretty happy with the show, but they're just kind of nervous for the future. And they're like, I just don't know if, you know, Leslye Hedlund's going to have a good grasp on where she wants to go moving forward, because they don't feel confident that everything's going to get wrapped up this season. Then they kind of started going back into other creators and things that they had done, and like just, yeah, they were kind of making comparisons, and I'm going to settle this whole thing from a corporate standpoint with the creators, and I'm not defending any of these actions. I'm just going to say really quick, I think everybody that works on these projects, like Leslye Hedlund, J.J. Abrams, Ryan Johnson, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, I'm naming everybody here. I think they all come in, and every single one of them loves Star Wars. You know, I really do. And I think that they are all trying their very best. The problem with that is they're not making Star Wars with their money. They're making Star Wars with somebody else's money. And that is why you come in. I know I'm going off on a big tangent, but this is, I think, an important point I wanted to make, because it kind of ties into the interview stuff that I'm going to talk about later. You know, they're making Star Wars with other people's money, and I think that those influences, like you said, maybe things such as runtime padding sometimes. It's short episodes and things of that nature. So I don't know if you know where I'm going with that, or try to.
I mean,
yeah. Like
it's different when, like,
I'm not defending it. I'm just trying to understand it. You know.
Well, let's see if I'm on the same boat as you here.
Sure.
So, like, for instance, if we were to make a Star Wars show, you and I, we would have a limited budget, so we would have to really just streamline it. We'd have to.
Well,
it'd be coming from the heart, and we're not screwing around. You know, it's kind of like what it says, the Saw movies. The less budget a Saw movie has, the better movie it is.
Yeah.
Because, like, when you get to Saw 5, he has, like, oh, this is a warehouse I rigged. And it's like, how could this one man do this, let alone one dying of cancer?
Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, you're kind of helping me out here, because I guess what I'm trying to say is it ties back into Mando season 1 and 2. Okay, so here's what I'm trying to say. Like, Favreau and Filoni in season 1 and 2, they did a great job again with the Flash Gordon, faster, more intense style, serial style, whatever. They did a fantastic job with balancing all that influence. But the problem with that is, like, Mandalorian became a hit. Grogu started making money. And that means now because I think they had a limited budget in Mando season 2, which works for a smaller scale story. But once that smaller scale story blows up, then the company whose money you're playing with is like, we're going to give you more money, but with that more money, we want a bigger scale, and you're going to do what we say.
Yeah, it's less focused at that point.
It's no longer your story. And I feel that time and time again with this show, oddly enough, with the exception of this episode for me, but I don't disagree with your time code padding or time runtime padding with the Basil stuff, even though that landed. But yeah, for me. But yeah, man, no, I get it, and I am concerned, and we'll get into that at the end. I'm concerned for these last 2 episodes, and I do want to speculate on where they go. But I'm definitely concerned. Like, despite how great I thought this was as an episode again. And sorry, did you have any more on? I'm sure you had more thoughts on the episode, or at least for Soul in May. I'm sure.
I mean, this all made my whole frustration is just I feel like the awkward interaction of it was just awkward storytelling of the lights coming on, lights coming off, and stopping the story. The weird beating around the bush is a term one of our friends used, a friend of the show, Keaton, and I thought that's perfect verbiage for it. It just feels like the whole episode is just beating around the bush, and it's like we're getting close to the buzzer. Like this if this was a third episode of a show, I'd be like, okay, this is that little middle ground area. But it's the fact that this was one whole episode of that. There's things in this episode I like, and that'll be in the next segment. But these 2 parts, the Jedi side story and this, I was not a fan of. Yeah. It felt like fat.
I mean, if this was maybe like Fox or CW show from back in the day where they had like 24 episodes, you're like, oh, I get like why they would do something like this here, because it's like, you gotta, they were probably thinking, and then that was probably the strange mindset that they had, is like, oh, let's do a Basil thing and throw a bone for the kids, you know what I mean? And like, but it's like, you're right, in an 8 episode series, I don't disagree with your point on that, where it's like, yes, in an 8 episode series, and it does make me hesitant for the last 2. I just keep going back to, it's like, again, it's like, for me, I had to judge this as an episode, singularly. I guess I'm judging this episode in a vacuum, as opposed to you're thinking about the grander scale of the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's, I think, the difference here as far as this aspect of it. Yeah.
My issue is, like, I mean, I get the idea of vacuuming it, but it's like, well, if this was in a vacuum, I would never watch this one thing because it's nothing.
I gotcha.
Like,
no, I get you. No, that's fine. I get you. Yeah, it just landed differently with us, I think, at the end of the day is what happened there. But which is fine. It's all subjective. Yeah, man, no, I get you. And then Soul, I do want to shout out, though, like, I thought the performing from Lee Jung-jae was really great in this episode, though. I mean, he did have like emotional beats to hit, and I thought he did really well with that. His writing this episode was much better. They didn't have him state the obvious, I don't think, or
he didn't yell, "I got this."
Yeah, it was actually I like that they his writing it seemed to behoove him to show a little bit more subtlety this time around, as opposed to some of the more, he didn't express himself as much. He was actually a little bit more subtle, and I thought the performing from Lee Jung-jae was great, but again, it's the unfortunate thing, and this is where I start to think about the entirety of the show, because I'm thinking about May at this point, where I'm like, it's like, at this point, I'm like, yeah, but sadly, every interaction he has is with May, and May is just sadly underdeveloped, as we kind of keep going back to here. And yes, was I happy that he knew, or figured it out or whatever, and stunned her in the cockpit? Yeah, I was thrilled about that. I thought that was a great moment. Going back, though, the one thing that I thought they utilized May well for here is what they utilized May for in the very beginning of the show, which is the assassin role. Because in the beginning of it, she did start to, she did go to kill him, and I thought that they did that pretty well in the beginning, where it was like, it did feel like the way it was all directed, like it was a little suspense moment, which I thought was really well done. Like, I think May is best too when she's subtle, and for some reason they made her more expressive. And I would understand that if you were developing the character further, but you're really not. So I think if May had been, and again, I don't think it's the acting, as you were saying, because you were like, I don't know if it's the acting or the writing. I would say it was the acting if we didn't see how well Amandla was doing with Osha, which we'll get to in a little bit. But, you know, I don't think it is the acting. I think it's.
But I mean, it could be she's just not good at playing a character like May. I can play Osha.
Or dual characters in one thing.
Yeah.
Maybe she became unfocused or something like that. But I just genuinely do think it is the writing, because I will say, I'll tell you why, though, outside of just the fact that we know Amandla can act, you know what I mean? And again, there's always that chance of miscast, as you were kind of saying, that, like Vernestra, for example. Although I think I'd rather watch May than Vernestra. I think at least May gets shit on her face by a robot and everything. That's always fun to see. But the thing about May is, the one thing I would say is, like, in the beginning, she just had very minimal lines, and she was, again, the assassin role, and it worked, and if you're going to give
I know an analogy.
Yeah.
She's Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Boba Fett, super cool silent armor man.
Yeah.
And then you gave him his own show where he has a personality and a character, and you're just like, this isn't that interesting.
Yeah, and that's another example of a good actor that's not written well, who has a character that's not written well, because... Yeah, you're right. I mean, Tamora, I think we'll talk about him in a bit here in the article, but I think Tamora's a fantastic actor. He really is. I think he's one of my favorite character actors working today, honestly, because he really is just, I think he brings a lot of great presence to every role he does, but yeah, sadly underdeveloped and underwritten, and like, you could have done a lot more with that character, and they just did not take that opportunity. And yeah, you're right. That's a great comparison for May. She's exactly, I think, the same mistakes they made with Boba Fett, they did for her, and like, when May was a child, I understood her being having a little bit more expression as a kid, but like, growing her up, let's get back to kind of what made her cool in the beginning of the show, which is like, and again,
a silent ninja, like,
right. And even this episode, as I said, even the beginning of the episode, that was when May worked best, is when she was going after Soul. And maybe to some degree they will get her back to that. Maybe when it comes time to go on the mission to get May or to get Osha back, and from the Stranger and everything, maybe they will use May in that capacity, just on the other side of the spectrum, I guess.
You actually reminded me of another issue I actually have, is the wishy-washiness of these two characters, because the episode before, she's going to turn herself into the Jedi, and because she's loyal to her sister now, and then immediately gets kangaroo kicked by Jackie, and she's like, okay, I'm going to kill Saul now.
Yeah.
So what's going on with, like, what is this?
No, you're right, and that is, again, you and I spoke about this previously, and I said I just think that's an overall show problem. Luckily, I don't think this episode. Here's what I would say. There's parts of it I can defend, and then there's things like you were saying too that I just feel about the same with. I do think it was really wishy-washy, and I think part of the wishy-washiness we're feeling is some of the runtime, you know what I mean? Like we've already said, like, I think, like, if you had more time, you could do more with the characters. The problem with May, so she did, you're right, she was very much like, let's this is how I break it down, and I'm not gonna be able to make any sense of this, so I'll forewarn you on that, but this is at least my impression. So my impression of this was May, she changed her mind, like, in that fourth episode, and I was like, whoa, that really did come out of nowhere. That first mind change came out of nowhere. Now, the second time around, when she kind of, like, in episode 5, where she started, her and Jackie started fighting again, my take on that is the Stranger showed back up. So my take was, like, she probably felt like she had no choice but to fall back into that assassin role. But you're not wrong that at the start of this episode, as great as the suspense was of her going after Soul, you do kind of wonder what happened. Again, it is wishy-washy. Again, that's a show thing, but I do feel you on that. You know what I mean? Well, like, I'm with you. I'm
like, just... the way you said, like, oh, Stranger coming back and all that, and
yeah.
Like, if the show said that, maybe I would give it more slack, but it's like, the show doesn't even, like, acknowledge that. It's just...
Yeah, the reason I thought I thought it kind of did, because the way I took it was, okay, she was gonna go, she was gonna go see Kalnaka, and then she discovered Kalnaka was dead, right? But she was gonna turn herself into Kalnaka, was the original plan, or not the original plan, but the second plan. That was her plan B. And then I think the stranger came back, and I thought the way the show acknowledged it was by her saying, he's here. That's how I took that. Like when she said that, when it got all dark and everything in episode 3 or 4, sorry. And she said, oh, he's here. I was thinking, oh man, now she can't turn herself in. Now she has to follow through. That's what I was thinking. Or maybe even if I can really stretch it and defend it up until this point, I would say the only other explanation that I would have, if just to try to enjoy this, the only explanation I can have is because she did say in the 4th episode, she didn't think that, she called him the master at this point, but we'll call him the stranger because that's how we know him, that she did say that the stranger, she didn't think he can even travel that far, but then he made it over there anyway. But then again, did May see it was Chimere?
I don't know. They never.
I don't think she did.
Yeah. What did?
So, if she doesn't know it's Chimere, she just thinks that the Sith can travel anywhere at any point and show up at any time. So, to be fair, I guess she probably thinks that she has to carry it through.
Yeah. No, she wouldn't have seen it because the bugs take him up, and that's when she runs back into Osha.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's great writing, but I'm just like trying to figure out the mindset, I guess, of the writing. Like, what was the mindset? And to me, that was it. Like the one thing I did defend is the fact that she went back to the assassin in 5, because I do think that was because of the presence of the master. But I don't know. You sure she didn't see it was Chimere?
I think he got lifted up by the bugs by the time she came back around.
Yeah.
Because Jackie and her fight, Jackie tries to arrest her.
So to make a little sense of that part of May, and I think the character's still underdeveloped, but at least for that aspect of it, I think if we can make sense of it, it would just be that I think that she really does think that this guy can show up anywhere, anytime, because she didn't think he was going to make it all the way to the woods, but he did.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be my best explanation. Again, the way the character's coming off, though, when she speaks, that still is not working, obviously. And I think that there's still a lot we need to, work on there or improve. But again, 2 episodes left, so we'll see how much progress can be made, actually. That should be pretty fascinating to see how they carry all that through. Anyway, I don't have a whole lot here left. I mean, the only thing I'll say is I did think that, again, the performing on Lee Jung-jae's part, I think the soul stuff really does work. His side of it, anyway, is really working for me. I enjoyed even the little part at the end where he said, now you're going to listen. I thought, that was really good. I was like, okay, this is some of the best writing you've given this guy, and he's acting the hell out of it. Either that or the writing has just been so subpar throughout this show that I'm just taking this and being like, this is a lot better than what we've had.
Column A, column B.
Exactly. What we can transition into, I think we'll both agree, is at least the best part is Osha and the stranger.
Yes.
For me, yes, I loved all this. This is what made me love it as an episode overall, is the fact that we at least got here, and I think that this did a lot for the character of Osha. I thought Amandala was great. I think especially Manny Jacinto is great as the Sith. He's stealing the show for me at this point. Like he took over. He really did for me. Before it was Jackie and Lee Jung-jae. I thought that they were both stealing it, and now it's Manny Jacinto. I think he just came in, took over, and is doing the best stuff. But again, it comes down to he really does have the best dialogue in the whole show. That's one thing that confuses me, and I have no explanation for this, but you tell me if you feel like every character has a different writer that took over for them, because it really does. Like, it feels like Leslye Hedlund was like, okay, Joe, you take Soul. Okay, May, or not May, but okay, Sally, you take May. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I'll take Mandy Jacinto. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Like they're each playing with their toys at a toy pet. He's like, no, my character will do this today.
Right? Yeah. Like they like actually sit down and pull out action figures and try to, you know, that's how the writing feels. And man, I'm so glad we at least got here and we did a lot for May, because I think that, or not May, I'm sorry, did a lot for OSHA, because yes, this is the best I think we've seen from OSHA. Like as far as like developing this character, bringing her somewhere. Damn it, I loved this turn. I really did. I thought that this was good stuff. And to be fair, really quick to the May part of it, I will say, when we started the show, I didn't think these two were going to flip-flop when we first found out. To be fair to that part of it, to the May part of it. But OSHA, I'll just say this. Like, basically, I mean, you know, what we're seeing here is we're seeing a Sith who's, you know, spinning truths again, and it was very consistent with what we saw of him in episode 5. And this whole thing is like, to me, I'm watching this, I'm like, this is the show that I was pitched, I thought, you know, is a Sith show. And I'm finally getting it here. And it was confirmed, by the way, that this planet is not Octo. They did confirm that. It is something else. But they also said it was meant to, they definitely got inspired by Octo. They really liked that planet, so they used inspiration. A little close there, if you ask me. But either way, I did like the location of it. I thought it really played for the aesthetic. And
I don't get the we like Octo. Just use Octo then. Like...
Yeah, no, I get you. I do think, like, I get liking Octo. I always thought that was just a great... I mean, in films in general, to be fair, I like when it's not just Star Wars. I've seen it, and I've seen Skellig Michael used. That's the island that they used. I've seen that used in multiple films. I just always think it's beautifully, aesthetically beautiful in any film I see that island in. So I do love that inspiration anyway. So that worked for me. And I was actually happy they kind of cleared that up, even though, like you said, it's a little close. Just use Octo. I don't disagree with you on that, but I was happy they cleared that up, because when you saw the elephant birds, I was thinking like, those aren't porgs, because I was convinced they were on Octo. That's how close.
100 years. 100 years they evolved into porgs.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, is that what they're trying to tell us? Is that this is eventually going to become porgs? Anyway, but it's clearly inspired by Octo, and the Force is clearly strong with the planets, and it's even paralleled with Octo, where in the sense where he told her beneath the surface is, you know, like a dark side place. You know what I mean? They clearly just took inspiration from Octo in every way. But they also, I will say, the location, despite the fact it was a little on the nose, worked in the sense of, I thought it just was well done for the episode. Like, my favorite shot, I think, maybe in this whole series right now, is the May, or sorry, I keep saying May, OSHA standing on the cliffside with the lightsaber and him approaching her might be my favorite shot in this whole show now. I thought that scene was incredibly memorable. Him putting the lightsaber up to himself and saying, do it, was awesome. You know, just the way he was approaching it. One of the great lines that I thought he said in this episode was when she asked, I don't know what it was. It was just so well done, but she said, did you kill Soul? And he said no. And then he goes, did you kill May? And instead of saying no again, he decided to go with not at all. I don't know what it was. It just like, I just love everything Manny's doing in the show. Like it's those little things, you know what I mean, that he's doing that's really making it work. And I'm sure we all were thinking when he took his clothes off, we were about to see Star Wars smut there for a minute. But
I said, here's the next long pants Kylo Ren.
Yep. But even that was, it played well, because it was like, damn, he is like showing himself in a vulnerable state. It actually had, to me, a little bit more purpose than the Kylo Ren one in Last Jedi, to be honest.
That was just him in his pajamas walking around.
That was just a coincidence in that movie, you know. In this, it was like taking that idea but using it better, because it was like, yeah, we're gonna let the Sith on purpose show himself to his potential apprentice in a vulnerable state. So I thought that was awesome. I just love the way it was played. And man, I thought, again, I think Amandla and Manny, I'm feeling those two actors work together really well. Like I just, it's the best chemistry that's been sparked in this show to me. Different kind, or except for, and this is a different kind of chemistry, with the exception of Jackie and Yord. That's a different kind of chemistry that I enjoyed. But this is the best chemistry as far as like you have to buy multiple different types of tensions between the two of these people, and I just thought that worked so well. Anyway, Josh, I'm gonna let you run on about the OSHA.
No, you're good. You're good. I'll just cover.
Stranger.
You haven't got to it yet, so I'll bring it up. It is my favorite part. When they go into his helmet, and the idea that it's like a sensory deprivation helmet.
Yeah.
So the fact that he can't see out of it, and he just feels through the force,
is
one of the coolest things I've heard from a Sith Lord. That is such a cool thing. And then they officially confirmed it as Corson.
Cortosis.
Cortosis, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too.
That.
Mm-hmm.
But no, everything about the helmet, him playing that he's just blinded and he just feels through the force. That's almost like Daredevil. Like it just feels cool.
Yeah.
It makes a creepy factor to him too, because that means he's really in tune to the force. Which kind of fits the whole ghost-like presence of him too.
Agreed.
Like when he glided down in episode 3. Episode 3, right? When he glides down.
Yep. 4.
Yeah.
Sorry, 4.
Yeah, he glides down like a ghoul.
Mm-hmm.
Ghouls.
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 Hopefully, most people get that joke.
I pray.
It's in a Star Wars movie. If you want to get technical.
Which threw me through a loop.
That did too. Yep. For me.
Because we just looked at each other like, wait, what? Are we being monitored?
Right.
But no, I love the helmet. I love him explaining it. That was the best part of the episode, and it gave me more of the Sif show I was promised.
Yeah, agreed. It's
kind of like, so I was like, hey, I'll get you a pizza, man. You're like, cool, man, appreciate it. You open up like, why is there only one piece in here?
Yeah.
But
I like that a lot, actually, especially for your perspective. Yeah, like that's funny. Yeah.
Another problem I had though is it was great and all, but like it didn't really bring anything new. He just said Sith Lord stuff to her. Yeah, it kind of goes into the whole these are where characters need to be, but I just didn't. I sound like I'm repeating myself, but it's kind of all three of these except Venestra's that she has to fit into that. That was just garbage.
Yeah,
but these two stories, the Star Wars Parent Trap, it was just it is things that needed to happen. Just shouldn't have been a whole episode.
I think for me, it brought upon a new kind of potential for the show. But again, and we'll get into speculation later, but I go back to the point, but there's 2 episodes left.
Yeah, it's not much speculating. Right, Endgame. We got to, if this show keeps its track record, we got 40 more minutes to show.
Yeah, exactly. We had 1 episode so far that was 45 minutes, and that was the one that was
I'm hoping the final episode's a bit longer, but I don't think that's the case.
Let's hope so. I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed, but I'm not going to keep my hopes up at the same time. Look, I will say, I think that's what excited me, though, is it just brings forth this new type of potential, and it made me, again, enjoy a character more. Not that I hated Osha. I always thought Osha was better than May for the most part, but I think that it took that character and just did so much more with her. Even right down to the manipulation of he left her new clothes to wear, and the clothes are a little bit more dark side feeling. You know what I mean? Like they just I just loved all those little details. This felt like, I don't know. I was watching this. I'm like, it's a show. It feels like a show now, it feels well fleshed out, this part of it. And I just, man, it just drove me to a point of loving it. I mean, Amandla, again, her performing was great. I mean, when he did finally get in touch, get her to get into her feels a little bit there, and she went after him with the red lightsaber. I thought that was just a sick shot. It was a dope scene. It's the most, to me, that whole cliffside again is the most memorable thing of this whole show. I would say probably between that and Jackie's 3 holes, but it just because it was
she's right there, man. Come on.
Yeah, no, she'll no one's ever really gone, but we.
Yeah, no, she's at my ghost studio.
Oh man. Either way, this is the strong point of the episode, but I think the only other thing we can do is just at this point speculate for the future. So do you want to take our quick break?
Yeah, I need a beverage like
Perfect.
super bad.
Yes, let's do our we're going to take 2 minutes, so I'll play the 60 seconds. I'll come back, tell the audience we're going to run it again, and that'll be the thing. I still got to make our actual break countdown. So all right guys, we're going to take a break, and then we'll see you guys back here in 60 seconds, and then we'll take another one. All right, here we go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So we're going to take our other 60 seconds here. So I'm going to play the countdown one more time, and we will be back with future speculation on the Acolyte. Here we go. All right, we are back. So very excited to speculate and dive into what can happen in the future on this show. I gotta say, man, I think there's really not a lot left to do. I mean, my only speculation at this point would really be, I mean, I think there's a ton left to do. Let me rephrase. There's a lot left to do. I don't think that they are going to do a lot more. That's what I would say. So I think that what we're going to get is some type of flashback next week. It's going to explain the real story. I think Soul's story and the stranger's story is one of the same. I think it's all going to be explained in one flashback. I think that they correlate back to that fire somehow, both of their stories. So somehow we're going to match those two. I don't know how. I don't really have an idea of how you do that. Somehow the stranger, I think, was just involved in the fire. That's the best way I can explain it. And then I think the final episode is going to be the mission to go get back Osha, and I just think they're going to fail. And I think Osha and Chimera are going to be revealed to be the beginnings of the Sith. That's it. That's what I got for the finale. That's where I think they're going. I don't know. Do you disagree or?
I think you're close to the money, but I feel like it's going to be one of those things where May will get killed trying to save Osha.
Yeah.
Or Osha kills May. And that'll be her full ascent to the dark side. Yeah. One of those two is going to bite it, and money's on.
That's
May.
That's a fair bet to say that Osha will kill one of them and then she'll go full Sith. I don't think that at this point you can have Osha turn back. I think that would just be too much of a cop out, and she has to be at least.
Well, then again, this show's been doing that a lot.
Then
recently,
again, we're talking about this show, so But, excuse me, I hope that certain powers that be are like, you know what, we pitched the Rise of the Sith regardless of what happened in the production and all these other things. You know, I think that the very least, you know, we can at the very least what we can do is, you know, end it with the Rise of the Sith. That way we're not accused of mismarketing. I don't know, that would be my mindset. But I just hope, I really do hope that at the end of it, it ends in a place where, and I'm not saying I have faith in it doing this, but it's just a hope that we all want a season 2. That would be cool if it can end there. And when I say we all, I mean just at least you and I are like sitting there like, yeah, you know what, we would like a season 2. We would like to see where this goes. We would like to see more of these characters. Okay, they got it here at least, and you know, maybe with taking some of the constructive criticism, they can improve on a season 2. And because there's enough here that I enjoy, you know, like I do, like we said, they got to the Rise of the Sith finally a little bit, and we're diving into that. So, you know, if they can continue that and lead it into not all the way up to Phantom Menace, but close enough to where we're like, okay, we could really see how that trajectory went a little bit better, then that'd be a cool place to go. You know, finales, to be fair, I think I'm not saying all of them, but I think a lot of the Star Wars shows have really delivered in their finales, at least something very cool. Like, and I'm hoping that, you know, maybe, and, you know, it's weird because I heard Leslye Hedlund talk a while back and say, like, she wanted to get this to a place where we all felt satisfied by the end. And she didn't want us, like, feeling like it needs a season 2. So maybe, I don't know how you close it all off, really, but it will be interesting. But I don't think that they're going to see. What I would really want to do is like do the flashback, but don't do the whole thing over again from a different point of view. Like, as much as I love Rashomon, and I know they're taking inspiration from that in that way, they've already said that Leslye Hedlund said she was inspired by Rashomon here, from, you know, looking at stories from a different point of view and all that. And I think that they are going to go very Rashomon about it and show us the whole story all over again, the whole flashback all over again with a different point of view. But because
I don't think they have time for that.
That's what I mean. They're going to do a whole episode on it, and they're going to run out of time. As well, I think
we have one episode left.
That's what. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I think they're going to do. What I want them to do is cut the flashback in with moving the story forward. So do
you ever
both
watch the Green Arrow TV show?
I can't say that I've not in its entirety. No.
So the episodes of Arrow, like the first 5 years, you get present day. Half the episode's present day, and then they splice in flashbacks.
Yeah.
Like he's having like a flashback to what happened to him on the island.
Yeah.
And that's how they should just approach it.
Yeah. Even that is going to cause problems with the editing. I feel like we're going to come back with editing gripes next week if they try to do that, because I just don't think, again, in 27 minutes it's going to work out very well in terms of the flow.
Oh yeah, no. Arrow is a 45-minute show.
Yeah, the flow's not going to feel very good, but at least you'll get us to where we need to be, and you can maybe flesh out a little bit more. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I will trade a poor flow for at least just a better overall story, I guess. That's kind of where I'm at. And then the finale again, man, unless it's like epic, I just don't know what the legacy of the show is going to be. You know, it's like, it's got to be something real special, I guess. And otherwise I just don't know what the legacy of this is. You know, it's going to be this weird moment in time where it's like, yeah, Acolyte had moments, you know what I mean? I think that's how I look back on it. And
it was fun.
Yeah, and I'm worried about it, you know what I mean? It's like, I guess at the end of the day, because damn it, you sold me on a couple things here, you know? It's like when I look back on this, I'm like, you sold me on some characters here. Not all of them, clearly, but you sold me on some. And so I'm really at a point where I'm like, I would, obviously we want all Star Wars to be good, you know? There's no Star Wars thing we go into thinking, hoping, I hope that fails, you know? Like, we want it all to be good when we see it. And I still am going to say the same thing for these last 2 episodes. I would love for them to be great. I just don't see how they do it, you know? If we're going off the track record, 27-minute episodes, which is I think what we're getting. Like, unless these next two are miraculously an hour long, I don't know how they. And I'm not going to get my hopes up, but yes, as much as I enjoyed this last episode that we were just speaking on, I did. I genuinely did in a vacuum. You know, it does create an overall show problem, which is we got two more left. What are we gonna do? I'm hesitant about these last two. And I hope I do hope we get to see that Russian doll Leslye Hedlund here. You know, we get to see the Leslye Hedlund everybody's talking about. You know, I really do, and I want to see. That's the best thing I could say. Show me what you got. You know what I mean? And hopefully you sell me. You know, that's all I could say. I don't know, but you think I'm pretty close on flashback and then just wrapping everything else up.
Yeah, I think it's the only option you could do to make the best of what you got, I guess.
Which, from an overall lore perspective, that pretty much means we're going to leave a lot to audience interpretation.
Yeah.
Things that we'd rather see on screen. Like, the show that you wanted to see is going to be left to your imagination. Sadly. And yeah, that sucks, man. I hope and pray that they can surprise me. I really do. And just make something that's, like, again, just has a lasting legacy. And you know, I will be honest. I went back and I watched the first 5 again after this one. And a lot of things have changed in my perspective. I do think they've done a good job in certain respects of reshaping my point of view on those first 5. And I think that they play a little bit better now, knowing where some of the things went. So I will say that. But I also feel like I just don't know what they do, you know, and I think it's a lot of it is like we've just been so burnt in the past, you know, with finales and Disney Plus shows especially. It's not just Star Wars, it's a Disney Plus problem, let's be real.
One of our biggest ones is WandaVision.
Yeah, it's a Disney Plus issue that they've run into time and time again where they just, you know, I think with the exceptions of like Loki and Andor, you know, it's been a massive. Every other Disney Plus show has had the same problem with their finales, you know? And Ahsoka, I'm sorry, I was personally very happy with Ahsoka.
Ahsoka was good.
Yeah, I think Ahsoka was clearly a setup season for what's to come, and that shows in Ahsoka. And that's the other thing that Ahsoka had as an advantage that this did not. We knew that there was more, you know, after Ahsoka. But with this show, we don't know if Leslye Hedlund has a future with Lucasfilm after this, you know. We just don't know. You know, it's up to them at this point. It's a tricky one because of mixed response, you know. So, and again, unless this finale can miraculously get you and I and a bunch of other people like really on board and want us to, it has to leave us on a place like, you know what, this season wasn't great. This is best case scenario. It leaves everybody in a place where it's like, this is sad that this is best case scenario, but this really is best case scenario, is it for it to leave everybody at a place like, you know what, this season was a little rocky, but I do want to see where it goes. Like, it has to end on that note of where it's like, but I am curious to see where it goes now that they've ended it this way. And if they can succeed at that, then yeah, I would say they'll probably greenlight a season 2. If they can at least get everybody saying, and I would even say the same thing about Ahsoka. Like, even for the people that didn't like Ahsoka, they all ended that show like, but I do want to see where it goes. You know, like I felt like for the most part, even the ones that for the people that even weren't enjoying Ahsoka in its entirety, they at least got it to a place for them where they're like, yeah, but I'm curious on the future of it, you know, and where that storyline goes and everything, at least, you know. So if you can get this show there somehow, and it's but it's tricky too, because again, I go back to, I heard Leslye Hedlund say she didn't want to end this on a cliffhanger, you know. So she probably didn't. And like I said, a lot of things are probably going to be left open to our imagination for the overall lore of it. And like,
the plight of Star Wars repeats itself.
Yeah. It's this constant Disney Plus problem that I'm just scared of for this show, but we could be here next week going, oh my God, they blew our minds. Who knows?
Probably not.
I wouldn't count on it, no, but I'm saying it's possible. It's always possible. No, I wouldn't count on it, but shit, man, if they can, kudos. I'll be very, very happy if they do. I'll tell you that. We'll see. We'll see. I guess that's really the spoiler discussion for the Acolyte. Like, I don't want to overextend it. I mean,
we had all 3 points of the show.
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, it's just a concern of, it's really interesting. I go back to, I don't think that the show was made for hardcore fans. I think that they were trying to get very casual fans in, for this one. And that's they just wanted something to entertain casual fans for a minute and hold them over till the next Star Wars thing. And the other thing we can say, though, just really quickly, we got to really hope, beyond all hope, that Skeleton Crew is better. What is your anticipation level for that right now? I'm just curious. Crew? In general, yeah.
Give me a trailer. I'll kind of judge it off that.
I agree. I need
this was pitched as, this is going to be the Sith show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. This is not the Sith show.
Yeah.
Like, so whatever they're saying Skeleton Crew is, it may not even be that. So give me the trailer and then I'll make my stance.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing that I think Skeleton Crew has going for it, that at least for me personally, that this did not, is at least the person who's doing Skeleton Crew, I'm familiar with his work. It's, John Watts, who did the Spider-Man trilogy. And I think he did a pretty good job planning that out and making that work. So, yeah, I don't know. And I also like the pitch of Goonies in space. I think that works for me, at least the pitch of it, But again, we'll see a trailer, we'll see, or even just an episode of it and see if it actually delivers on that. And generally, I like Jude Law, in general. I think Jude Law's a good actor. He's the best part of those damn Fantastic Beasts movies. I think most people agree on that,
I forgot those 3 good movies.
What's that?
I forgot they were even movies.
Oh, yeah. I like 2 of them. But he's the best part of them, for sure. Like, once he came into it, it was, he's a pretty good Dumbledore. I think everybody, even people that just despise those movies, agreed Jude Law's a great Dumbledore. So, yeah, he's generally a good actor. And, yeah, I don't really have a lot. Oh, the other part of that, though, too, for Skeleton Crew, New Republic era. So, it takes place after Ahsoka in that era. And so it's an era that we're interested in already, we're invested in. So I think that works for it. I do like that. I do think it takes place on that other galaxy, though. The one that was introduced in Ahsoka. That's my speculation at this point.
When's it due out?
December, I think. I think they're going for the Christmas release for it. Which that's another thing you can look to as well. When they release Star Wars in Christmas, I'm not saying it's always panned out, but they do tend to put projects that they're a little bit more confident in around the Christmas time. Not again, it hasn't always panned out, but that's like, Disney in general, I think, or studios in general tend to put projects out that they're a little more confident in right around the Christmas season. So I'm hoping, and I get that this is TV, not the theater, but I'm just hoping that this delivers. I really am. And we don't really have a lot else to look forward to after Acolyte. That's the thing. Like, we have Outlaws, the game. And we can
that.
Hope that delivers, yeah.
That's when we're going to have to get creative about content on the show, but we're working on some stuff.
As far as, like, Outlaws? Or... No,
just like after we're done talking Acolyte, like this show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to do some runtime padding after that.
Yeah, so. I got a few Basil sketches written.
Yeah, awesome.
But no, I've done some research on some things. We'll talk about after the show.
Cool. Awesome. I will say, I do want to talk about really quick. Speaking of like the future, just even talking about the past, though, I personally, for me, this show has been a little bummery, in some respects, but the year has been pretty good for Star Wars. I mean, I will say, like, starting with Dark Disciple, not Dark Disciple, Jesus, Dark Forces, the remaster.
Yes.
I had a great time with that game. I thought it was awesome.
That was a hoot.
Yeah, thought that was a hoot, and I also got to say, Bad Batch was amazing. Then I don't blame Disney for this, but we did have that Battlefront debacle happened, so that wasn't good. So there was that. But other than that, I do look at this year as being Tales of the Empire, and there's a lot of really positive things that happen for Star Wars this year, even if Acolyte ends in a kind of a bummy place, and then we just got to hope that Outlaws and freaking Skeleton Crew deliver on the promise.
Since I haven't really talked about Tales of the Empire, that was just delightful.
It was just
it was so delightful,
simple. That's what I like about those projects. Like, you don't have like a lot of expectations for, and then every so often you get a Bad Batch that it just surprises the hell out of you. I think that was the best season of that show, and it's my sorry, let me go back. That's still my favorite season of Star Wars TV, and that surprised the hell out of me, considering I was lukewarm on the first 2 seasons of that show, and the fact that I thought they just made like a perfect Star Wars season. Yep.
Oh, yeah, you got out there for a second. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was saying I think it was great they made a perfect Star Wars season, even though I was lukewarm on the first 2. But yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I still need to watch it. I'll get around to it though.
Yeah, Bad Batch season 3 I thought was masterful. I didn't think anything would top Andor season 1 except for Andor season 2, and then the little old Bad Batch comes around and surprises the hell out of me. So,
well, little old Andor's about to pop his head back up.
Yes, he is. 2025. I'm excited for that.
Right around the corner. It'll feel like tomorrow.
If you say so. Let's see what else we got here. So we did have a couple stories, as I said, and we're gonna dive into those. Before we get to the actual articles, let me talk about the Leslye Hedlund interview I watched. She jumped on with some YouTuber that I'd never even heard of, but
you mean Who Isn't Us?
Correct. And I saw that it was
okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I know.
No big deal.
I know.
No big deal.
But I saw it was like, what intrigued me to watch it is it was like a 22-minute interview. And I was like, really? Like, at this state in the game of the season? Like, so I was like, okay, well, let's see what she said about the season so far. And I wanted to see, some of the things she answered. And then there were some interesting things that she did say. So I must say, she talked about Kalnaka, and she said she's definitely seen the response to the nobody getting the Wookiee Jedi, in the show.
Yeah.
And so she said, which I thought was interesting, she just basically looked at the camera and was like, but don't worry, we got you. So I don't know. We'll see what that means.
Well, right there confirms the flashback.
Right. Yeah. Well, that does confirm a flashback, I would say, and then hopefully we get awesome Wookiee Jedi stuff at least in the flashback part of it. So yeah, I would love to see Kalnaka in action. We should. So that's good. That's good that we have a little bit of that confidence. The aspect I found to be more interesting is something that we talked about, I feel like, ad nauseum about the show. So she was asked about Chimere and the reveal, so to speak. And this is really interesting. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but it is essentially the answer, where she said, when they were working on the show, there was pushback from the crew. She didn't say who. She just said there was pushback from the crew, and there was back and forth. Oh, sorry. There was back and forth between her and the crew about that reveal. And she said that basically she said to the crew, whoever that is, that she felt like if she was going into the show as a fan, she would have guessed that Chimere was the bad guy just from reading the cast list. So she would have had that predicted immediately. But she said that the crew kind of pushed back. And again, I don't know who the crew is, but she pushed back on that and said, we need to make it like a twist. And so does it sound like that entire thing was her decision? Sounds like she wanted it to be a little more predictable, didn't want to build it like a plot twist.
We pretty much just that's him.
Yeah.
I think we only know one person that was
Yeah.
shocked by that.
Yeah, but I do think what that confirms is, again, too many cooks in the kitchen. You know, I
Yes.
think just by that comment, again, it's like I don't doubt that the Leslye Hedlund I've heard so many great things about is true. You know, I don't think that she got to make the show she ultimately was going to make initially. You know, I think that there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of compromise, you know, and a lot of things going on. And again, don't know who the crew is, but to me, that's like her saying the cooks essentially that got in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So I did find that interesting, and she seemed pretty open about that. And, you know, it did sound from her tone, she was being very like, and again, I kind of feel for her in a way. I mean, I get it. Like, she is the showrunner. She's going to get the blame. And when you sign up to do one of these big corporate projects like Star Wars, you know what you're getting into, you know? So I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, poor Leslye Hedlund has to take the backlash. That's not what I'm doing at all. I'm just saying from her tone, I did feel the sense of like, she didn't get to make the show she wanted to make ultimately. And but she was also being a trooper on the front lines. So I give her credit, you know, going out there, being the one to take the interviews and all that, which she should be doing. But at the same time, like, you know, nobody else is stepping in and being like, hey, that decision was our fault or anything, you know? So
Yeah.
I feel bad in that sense, but at the same time, like, good for her for, you know, doing her job. But at the same time, like, you know, I think I've always said this, like, I always think like some years down the line we're gonna get the Star Wars Disney era tell-all book, and it's gonna be very revealing about a lot of things, and I'm looking forward to that. I really am.
When those NDAs run out, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Probably get a few documentaries or what have you.
Yeah, and I don't mean that like. I'm not just looking forward to that I mean, the drama is going to be pretty interesting that happened behind the scenes, but I'm also looking forward to it to learn more about behind the scenes of the shows I do like, or the projects I do like that they did too, you know? You know, like I love, even with the original Star Wars movies, I love the behind the scenes stuff, man. I just love diving in and nerding out about that and seeing how that shit was made, you know?
A case in point, a movie we both adore on this channel.
Yeah.
I think everyone does. Jaws. The behind the scenes on that is such a train wreck. It's more fascinating than the movie.
Oh, yeah, and not just that, Star Wars. The original Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars.
A train wreck behind the scenes. Like, you know, it's like, it's not uncommon. I mean, the one that people consider to be the best movie that Disney's put out is Rogue One. That thing was a wreck behind the scenes, man. Like, that's come out, you know? Like, it's you just never know with this stuff, you know? Like,
I still love the Harrison Ford story that Mark Hamill told.
Which one
where
about?
He's like, hey, where he's like, look at this scene. My hair's inconsistent. He's like, kid, if they're looking at your hair, then we're in a lot of trouble.
That's funny. Yeah. I've decided I'm just going to smoke on camera. I tried to hold back.
God.
I'm gonna have one on camera.
He's igniting a lightsaber, kids.
Yep, that's what it is. Don't smoke.
You should do the lightsaber sound effect when you light it. Or just put a giant sensor bar in your mouth.
What's that?
Just put a giant sensor bar in your mouth.
I could. Don't tempt me. No, I'm kidding.
Do it. You're scared. Yep, you're scared.
No, I actually just don't know how to do it. I lied. All right. Don't lie, kids. It's bad. Fibbing is bad. All right. So let's pull up this article here. Oh, wrong screen. Sorry. You're probably going to want to be on this. There we go. All right. Star Wars actor Tamora Morrison wants to star in The Mandalorian after Pedro Pascal stole, quote unquote, the Book of Boba Fett episode. The way he did and came into my show and stole an episode of my show. He said, I would actually like my character to visit the Mandalorian, the Mando Fort or something, and come in there and kick some real ass as well. Morrison said, sharing his hopes to reprise the role of Boba Fett. The way he did it and came into my show and stole the episode of my show, so I'd like to do the same thing. There is no word on a 4th season of The Mandalorian or a 2nd season of the Book of Boba Fett. The announcement of The Mandalorian and Grogu spin-off movie may mean the former series has ended its small screen run, even though Jon Favreau confirmed in February 2023 that he had finished the script for season 4. Yeah, they converted it to a movie, from my understanding. News of The Mandalorian and Grogu arrived sometime after that. Yeah, exactly. So the assumption is that the movie would be taking place of The Mandalorian season 4. Thank you for doing that. Anyway, at least in short term, with Favreau directing the upcoming big screen adventure of everybody's favorite best car sporting space dad and his trusty sidekick, Grogu. This is a real... It's not really news. This is a real short, just fun article, I thought.
It's just him joking.
Yeah, I mean, it's Tamora being Tamora, and I love it. I do. I think, I think he's the best in interviews. Like, he really is great in terms of that. He's a real fun guy. You could tell he loves to troll and shit. Oh, our screen here is way off. Sorry, guys, for folks viewing at home. Anyway, but he's a real fun guy. And I think that he loves to troll like this and stuff. But it does make me bring up the question. Like, I mean, do you think that do you think Boba Fett would be in the Mando movie, or I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I can see him showing up if they're doing some in-game type thing where Mando's got to get a team going. Why wouldn't Boba Fett be there? Plus, what draws butts to seats? Boba Fett. People do love Boba Fett.
Well. Yeah, I mean, I think that part of this movie, my assumption's always been that they are going to do something of some type of a team up in this movie, because we're coming into the galaxy when Thrawn's just entered, and I think that Mando's help is good. They're going to recruit him for help, and I think that he's going to say, yes, we got to call Boba Fett, and they're going to call Boba Fett, and he's going to enter the room.
What if they kill Boba Fett in that movie?
No, I was thinking, like, that's good. Half the runtime of this movie is going to be him going up to every rebel pilot and being like, I'm Boba Fett, and having to introduce himself all over again. No, I'm kidding. No.
If it's in Mandalorian fashion, it'll be him. It'll be Din Djarin going around and doing odd jobs for people.
Yeah.
For about 4 hours, and then the movie will play. You'll get the final conflict that's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But I can see Boba Fett getting killed. I could.
Yeah, I think he's. Yeah, just end it once and for all. Just put this, is Boba Fett dead to rest? He
falls back into a Starlight pit, like right at the beginning of the fight.
I don't know how he's become such a joke, but it's funny. He really has too. That's the thing. Like, I don't know. I mean, are they gonna want to play up the joke? I would hope, though, if he does die, they give him like a glorious death. Like, go back.
Oh, they would.
Yeah, go back to the Boba Fett we saw in the episode of Mando that we saw.
Well, in one article, that the actor said he wanted to do that. He wanted the more mysterious Boba Fett back.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the funny. I know that he's just making fun in this interview. Yeah, but I was just saying the thing is like he already did kind of hijack Mando's show in that one episode, though. Granted, it tied in better to the story and the overarching thing, but Yeah,
I still say that using Mando, I guess episode 0 for season 3 of Mando in the Book of Boba Fett was such a misstep.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I hated that. Even though I loved the episode when it aired, I hated.
Yeah. No, and I don't think Tamora in his heart of hearts would want to actually do that like the way that Mando did it, because it was like, like he probably knows that it was, like you said, a misstep to do it that way, and I think he'd probably want the best for the overall story, I would hope. I mean, he seems like such a fan himself every time I hear him talk, about Star Wars, and I think he probably just wants what's best for the story, and I hope that that's his feelings. And again, I know he's trolling, but we, like moving into, I think that I would like to see Boba Fett back the way that we were introduced to him in Mando, because it won me over on the character finally. I was never a Boba Fett guy, and then when I got him in that episode, I was always a Jango Fett guy, not so much Boba. And when we got him in the episode of Mando, I was like, yeah, all right, you're winning me over, and then they did the Book of Boba Fett, and it's like, damn, I love the performance, but the writing isn't very good. And I even liked the idea of him and Fennec together. I thought I loved Ming-Na Wen as that character. I thought that all that stuff was working. Just the way that they wrote him, it was like, what the hell's going on here? And Boba Fett, like, even that, like, outside of Mando hijacking Boba Fett's show, let's be real. I mean, Fennec even hijacked Boba Fett's show.
Yeah.
Like, she got the cooler stuff to do. Even in that first episode when that gang,
She was more Boba Fett. She was more Boba Fett than Boba Fett.
Yeah, well, it was just, and again, that came down to the writing, because like everything that, like, she would like advise him to do like something that made a lot of sense, and he'd go, "No, we're not going to do that." And it's like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, like there was aspects of that I liked. I just thought they didn't execute it very well. Like, I enjoyed, like, in the concept of Boba Fett being a little bit more like, we're approaching Boba Fett in an older age. I enjoyed that in concept, and he's a little bit more subtle, but the execution of it didn't play, but you still have to give him like a real threat, which they tried, I guess, in Cad Bane, but
But even, it was,
I mean, Cad Bane was cool, but
it was cool to see him.
But it's great to see him, but yeah, you know what? A lot happened in the Boba Fett finale. We can say that for it.
It was Cad Bane showing up was Boba Fett showing up at a bad party.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh, it's cool to see him though, but the party sucked.
It's cool to see him, yeah, exactly. But yeah, the party sucked. I agree with that. I think that's a really good analogy, because yeah, man, Cad Bane was one of my dream ones too, like, to see in live action. Like, I was like, yeah, Cad Bane, they should definitely bring to live action, and it makes sense, and they did. And then we got what we got.
Yeah. Here, 1 second. Go Dom Solo real quick. I just got to go.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, while Josh is gone, I guess I could talk to you guys about Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We always try to push those. We are on the Extract Media feed on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So one of the new incentives that I've given you guys is that if you go follow us over there, you will be getting the episodes early, not just this show, but movie mornings as well. You get them just a little bit early. We upload them there first before we upload them on the video format. So thought maybe I could throw in some incentive. If we're asking you guys to do it, we got to give you a reason to. And then not only that, if you're on the road, especially a long commute or a long trip out to a different state or something along those lines, I mean, this is, it's easier to probably go listen on Spotify for free than to, subscribe to YouTube Premium, and which is great if you do that, but if you're on YouTube more, but it's probably easier just to open up Spotify than a video, and you can listen to us on the road. And then also just show us some love, because positivity is better than negativity. All right, Josh is back, and we're gonna get back.
Yeah, actually, what I was doing, Dom.
What
you pitched the show on Spotify so well. I actually left the show for a minute to download our episodes on Spotify.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So I can listen to it on the road to work.
And not only that, you get it early, as I explained to the audience.
Yes.
You get it just a little bit early if you're on the...
I'm downloading this episode right now.
Oh, my God. Oh my God.
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
Perfect. All right. Let's use that to segue into our next story, which is not really a story. So this is a surprise for you. I thought that this would be fun for us to do. So... Okay. You and I, big fans of the Ahsoka show and Ahsoka Tano, and I saw this article from Screenrant, a website that I quite like usually. Not their opinion pieces usually. Well, sometimes. We'll see. Depends on, what they say. I haven't read any of this, but I thought it'd be fun just for topics of discussion to debate this. And the article title is 10 things that make no sense about Ahsoka Tano. And I thought you and I can give our 2 cents on their 10 points.
Okay.
And we can agree or disagree with them. I have not read any of these, I promise. And I just thought that it'd be really fun to go through and figure this out. See what gripes they have and if they're right or wrong. So let's take a look. Here we go. Let me make sure it didn't screw up the screen again. There we go. All right, perfect. Perfect. All right, Ahsoka number 10, they're in the top 10 things that make no sense about Ahsoka Tano. Their number 10 point is Ahsoka waited a year to interrogate Morgan Elsbeth. I'll need a little bit more elaboration on this, so I'll read. When Ahsoka Tano makes her first live action appearance in The Mandalorian Season 2, it is an attempt to stop Morgan Elsbeth and her control over the planet Corvus. After receiving help from Din Djarin, Ahsoka made sure that Morgan Elsbeth was captured and sent to the New Republic. She escapes custody in Ahsoka Season 1, leading to the rest of the events that transpire throughout the series. However, one thing that doesn't quite make sense is that between her capture in The Mandalorian and her appearance in Ahsoka, an entire year has passed. If the timeline is to be believed, she spent an entire year appearing in the Book of Boba Fett, among other things, before starting her quest for Grand Admiral Thrawn that kicks off Ahsoka. One can only wonder why she would choose to wait when the matter seemed pressing. So going back to us here, Josh, do you agree or disagree with their assessment?
The Force works in mysterious ways.
I disagree with their assessment. I genuinely do disagree with their assessment, and I will tell you why. She did wait. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I would say, to be honest, I don't really remember the timeline stuff that much and what would keep her a year. Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched this episode.
So my explanation of that is that is false, because I think that they're missing quite a few details in that one. And again, this is no disrespect to the writer. I feel like the article, I do feel like they're missing some details or have forgotten about some certain things. So number one, let's talk about so what happened is that first time we saw Ahsoka was when? That was Mandalorian Season 5, right? So,
yeah.
Or Season 2, Episode
Jedi,
5.
yeah.
Episode 5 is Season 2. And that, she was already looking for Thrawn at that point, and she went up against Morgan, and then what happened to Morgan? Morgan went to prison.
Yeah.
So Ahsoka didn't have any more business with Morgan. Because in Ahsoka's mind, Morgan went to prison. Remember, Morgan broke out of prison in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So I disagree with their assessment that she waited, per se. I don't think she waited on anything. I think she was still searching for leads and other things to find Thrawn. Because remember, by the time we start in Ahsoka, she's just now getting the map. It probably took her a lot of time to find the location of the map, right? So I actually think it makes more sense that a year had passed, because it doesn't make sense that she would just know where that map was. Because I don't think, my assumption of her getting the map, that means Morgan didn't give up Thrawn's position when she asked in Mando Season 2, because she asked for Thrawn in Mando Season 2 and then it cut away. My assumption would be Morgan never gave away the position. So Ahsoka was like, all right, fine, you're not going to give the position. We're just going to send you to prison. And then Morgan went to prison. So I disagree with everything that was just said in that point. Morgan was in prison. She had no more business with Morgan. Morgan broke out of prison. Or Baylan broke Morgan out of prison. Remember?
Say what a better answer you gave, because you remember.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just disagree. Yeah, I haven't read any of these, so I apologize if there's something you don't remember. But in that one,
that thing, like, that is one fault of mine. I only seen like each one of these episodes once.
That's fair.
And that's when they aired. I haven't really gone back to rewatch much.
All right. All right, let's see. This could get pretty interesting. Just even going off this next one here. So they're number 9 point for things that don't make sense about Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka did not appear in the sequel trilogy, though her voice appeared in The Rise of Skywalker. Very true. If there was ever a trilogy for Ahsoka to appear in, it would have been the sequel trilogy. Ahsoka was already an established character by this time, and it would have made sense for her to want to help save the galaxy again. And since her death has not yet been explored in the franchise, it would have provided the perfect opportunity for her to appear in live action. This never happened, and her live action debut would have to wait for her appearance in The Mandalorian. All right, so here's my assessment on this.
Now I'll roast this one.
All right, I'll start this time around.
Okay.
We'll take turns on who starts these, I guess. I'll start this time around. I disagree with their assessment again. Now, I would say I think that it was a better, I think a better sequel trilogy was to start with Ahsoka. Like when I started up the Ahsoka show, I was sitting there like, oh, this is just what they should have done in the first place, is explore the heir to the Empire and all that. You know what I mean? Honestly, because it was just, to me, a more interesting storyline than what happened in the sequel trilogy. And so to that extent, I do wish Ahsoka was in the sequel trilogy, but that's all this is to me, is wishful thinking and on their part, because when I look at this, I'm like, yeah, they answered their own question. The death has not yet been explored, but I do think she's definitely dead by the time they reach the sequel. So
that's my point. Is okay, if you hear her voice in the end of that movie, during the movie, that means she's dead. Now. Yeah. We could go into, because like I was talking about this with my brother the other day, actually, is it's not Rosario Dawson we're hearing, it's the original voice actress of Ashley
Eckstein.
Yeah, thank you. It's her. So we could almost argue like, oh well, that's before Ezra saved her.
Yeah.
For War Between Worlds. Could be that. So there could be another version of her running around. If
sure.
That's the way you want to go with it. But the thing is, you hear her voice, I mean, she's dead. That's why she's out there. She's dead. And also, she's kind of a Ronin. She's off doing her own thing.
Yeah.
For all we know, she's in the other galaxies.
That's what I mean. That was another point I was going to bring up, is like, and when was the last time we saw Ahsoka? Well, it was the other galaxy. Yeah. So, who knows at this point? Yeah. So we could figure it out. But they did. I wanted to point this out, though. I'll give them a fair shot. I'll give Screenrant a fair shot here, because there was more to their point, and an ad had blocked it out at first. So let me read the rest of their point really quick, and we'll see if they win us over here.
Our apologies.
Yep. Despite the fact that she does not make an official appearance, Ahsoka's voice can be heard speaking to Rey during the showdown against Darth Sidious, correct? Ahsoka is amongst the voices of the Jedi as Rey becomes the conduit for all the Jedi. One would think this implies she is dead by the time of the sequel trilogy, exactly, but showrunners have said this is not necessarily the case. Saying not necessarily the case and saying it's not the case are two different things. Necessarily is the point that, yes, you're right. Dave Filoni did say it's not necessarily the case, but I really think that's him saying, I don't know.
Yeah,
we're not that far along yet, so I don't know. I think that's what he was saying. I don't think
my headcanon right now is the War Between Worlds. She was just in there when that happened.
Yeah, I mean,
that's like a line that before Ezra changed things.
Yeah,
before he went in between.
We're going to talk about this further when we do the Ahsoka review. I hope we still do that in October. But yeah, like I did want to say, like if I'm going to like talk about the trajectory of things right now, my assumption is that Ahsoka is going to die, not in the Ahsoka series, but I think in a future project. And I think that what they're building is for. I'm hopeful. I think Sabine is the main Jedi. I think she's the one in training. I think that's who's going to carry the franchise forward. Or her and Ezra both as a duo would be awesome. My assumption is that Ahsoka is the Obi-Wan of the future plan, and she is going to get killed off. Not that they're going to copy and paste, but you get what I'm saying. I think that it's going to rhyme a little bit. It's going to rhyme, right? And I think that right now we're seeing Sabine as sort of the Luke right now. I think that's what he's trying to build her to, and Ahsoka would be the Obi-Wan. That would be it would rhyme. She'll probably get killed off, hopefully very gloriously and in a way that makes sense. But I do think that eventually you can't just do Ahsoka Tano forever, and I think eventually they will move beyond that. I think that is why there was such a big focus on Sabine. I think that's the reason that Dave made the decision to make Sabine a Jedi in the Ahsoka show, is to have somebody to carry forward even beyond. And then you can have a different discussion about why Sabine was in the sequels, depending on her path, and her trajectory. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I disagree with both points so far, so they're not doing too well. I think we've cleared up both points. But let's keep on number 8. Oh, excuse me. I got a burp. Excuse me. Point number 8, her mantras and Leku change between Star Wars Rebels and The Mandalorian. I think I'm going to disagree with this one too, but let's go ahead.
Oh, was that? I'm sorry.
Her mantras and Leku change between Star Wars Rebels and The Mandalorian. But let's see their argument on it. Let's give them a fair shot. Although her appearance is inconsistent across each of her appearances, Star Wars has done a good job of Ahsoka's aging. They have done this by showing the slow growth of her mantras, the hollow conical horns at the top of her head that allow her to hear, that they're explaining what that is, and her Leku, the tendrils that hang down on the sides of her back and head. As she gets older, these mantras and Leku grow and develop. Though this seems to have change between Star Wars Rebels and The Mandalorian. Okay. When she appears in live action, her Leku, especially her montrals, have somehow shrunk. While this can be chalked up to stylization, okay, I think they're getting to somewhere with that. It is still an odd choice to change one thing that has been consistent across each iteration. Regardless, it is unlikely that her design will change again in future live action appearances. They're not wrong, but it makes sense still because sorry, I'll let you say your piece on this one. I mean
they already kind of answered it. It's a style choice. Yeah,
it's a style choice, and I also think it's adapting between animation and live action.
Yeah, it's
just scale does not transfer. You know what I mean? So
like if her Lekus were that big in the live, it could look goofy.
Yeah.
It's like in superhero shows when they do a live action superhero show, the outfit's different because case in point, Suicide Squad. They gave Harley Quinn her original outfit was Joker.
Yeah.
And it looked horrible because it doesn't translate well to big screen.
I agree. It's just adapting from animation to live action. The scale just does not transfer. And a lot of things just don't transfer from one to the other, as you were kind of getting into there. It just doesn't work. And but again, if you want to be a purist, I guess they're right in that sense. If you really want to look at the animation scale and take that as gospel, then yeah, you're right. But I don't think anybody did take that as gospel. Not anybody reasonable anyway.
It's like hair in Rebels doesn't look like Mary Elizabeth. Like
you have to pick on every character then at that point that's been transferred from from animation to live action. So yes, I'm sorry, but I disagree with this point once again. So that's another one. I promise I've not read any of these, and I'm surprised of how many we disagreed with. I thought they were going to give us some like actual
we'll give them a softball.
Interesting things. Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. Let's move forward to point number 7. Tales of the Jedi made unnecessary changes to the Ahsoka novel. Let's see this. This is interesting. When Tales of the Jedi was created, it made the choice to adapt a story that was first introduced in E.K. Johnston's Ahsoka novel. I might be able to give them this one to a degree. This story shows Ahsoka's life in the wake of Order 66, living in a farming settlement on the planet of Rada. However, there are some key differences between the show's depiction of events and what happens in the original novel. Agreed. One important thing that was erased when bringing the story to television was the inclusion of a queer character named Caden Larty. Please don't go where I think you're going with this. Anyway, in one of the most important depictions of queer romance yet. In queer romance yet in the Star Wars franchise. Caden tells Ahsoka that she wanted her to know she could kiss her, telling her in case the two of them are going to die. This could have been a defining moment for queer representation in the franchise, as including this for a character as fundamental to the franchise as Ahsoka would be a great step for the series' representation. I gotta say, while I did not mind them condensing the story for Tales of the Jedi personally, because it was a condensed version of it for sure. So as far as like the changes that were made from book to screen, I didn't mind that as much. Just in a general like sense, it goes back into what we were saying. Things change over adaptation, but I will say they do make a good argument for why they maybe should have kept some things from it. That'd be my point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're going to do the book, they should have just done it as a season of like animation. Yeah, not like a short series.
Yeah, and that like was yeah. Go ahead.
A one season, 13 episode type thing.
Yeah, and even to be fair, that was to me the weakest episode of Tales of the Jedi. Was the one where they tried to adapt that part of the book. Like it was good, but it wasn't like great like the rest of the episodes. I felt so. Yeah. No, to be fair, they actually. I'll give them this one. I do think they make good points as to maybe some of that stuff should have been transferred over. Maybe they should have adapted the whole book. I would love to see that book get adapted at some point into just like a mini series. That'd be very cool. But I didn't mind it at the time, but I never heard that point of it. So seeing that point of view, I can give them that point. So not that it necessarily, which is the title of this article, not that it makes no sense. It makes plenty of sense. They wanted to adapt a screen and do a short, but they are right that it really is kind of weird that, or some of the details they left out, they probably should have brought in. So I'll give them the argument, I guess. Point Screenrant. Where are we? 3-1 now, I think.
Yeah.
So point number 6 that they make. Let's see. Ahsoka's allowed to intervene on Durin. Okay, I'm not familiar with what they're talking about, but let's see what they're saying. Okay, beginning with the planet's appearance in the Clone Wars Season 5, Season 2, A War on Two Fronts. Okay, I think I remember this. The planet on Durin was embroiled in the Separatist conflict during the Clone Wars. During this time, Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Ahsoka Tano visited the planet in order to provide aid to the native people fighting back against the Separatists. However, the Jedi Council insists that they do not interfere with the conflict, as that is supposedly not the Jedi's place. Okay. While the Jedi in this episode insist that they do not engage, Ahsoka specifically is seen fighting alongside the natives of Onderon. She directly engages the Separatist forces, fighting alongside the rest of the troops. No one comments on this, and Ahsoka is allowed to carry on helping as she deems fit, not only training, but assisting in battle. Because of this, the definition of what constitutes interfering is left unclear. You got anything?
I mean, she's always been a headstrong Padawan, and it's kind of...
Yeah.
Jedis are always like, hey, don't do that. And then you do it, and they're like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
I think there's a lot of things in the Clone Wars that you can be like, yeah, I mean... If we're just trying to make the point that Ahsoka just did a couple little things that were against the Jedi way, I think that just like goes back into her being a Padawan and still learning and not, having everything clear cut. I also think it dives into, I mean, you know what? I am going to go against this one because let's remember that by the time that we get around to like the end of the, Clone Wars, she leaves the Jedi Order, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna fight against that one. I think it probably ties more into the fact that Ahsoka departs from the Jedi Order. So I'm gonna say that I'm sorry they're wrong on that. That would be my opinion. Although it's an interesting point. I will say it was a more creative one than a lot of their other ones here. I unfortunately I had to disagree because I do think it still ties into the overarching narrative and the character arc that is ultimately Ahsoka's by the end of season 5 of the Clone Wars. So yeah, sadly, just can't agree with him. Yeah, what was funny?
Oh no, someone's in the studio and he was frantically waving at me, and I thought made me laugh.
Oh, fair enough.
No, one thing that I did notice when you had the article up,
yeah,
on my screen it's still the Boba Fett article.
Fascinating. Let me see if let me
I
check
just noticed that.
No, I appreciate it. Let me check the screen we're recording with to make sure that we're not having technical issues. You are correct. I think I know what I did. So apologies, folks.
You done goofed.
I did.
You done goofed.
Let's do that.
Yep, we're canceled.
It's over. No.
It's over, Anakin.
The
article is one.
On this just keeps getting messed up. Hang on, guys. I'm gonna figure out a way to do this a little bit more consistently. So sorry about all this, guys.
This part's gonna rock on Spotify.
Oh, amazing. For the audio listeners, we're just having all sorts of technical difficulties.
But it's gonna sound really cool of us just like fumbling.
That's what I gotta do. The
It's ASMR. That's what it is.
All right. Sorry, point number 5. Ahsoka is incredibly strong even as a teenager. Ahsoka fights against many different foes throughout the Clone Wars, fighting alone against different adults such as General Grievous as the series progresses. By the time of the Siege of Mandalore, Ahsoka is only 17 years old. Despite her young age, she throws herself into conflict and fights directly for the liberation of the planet from the clutches of Darth Maul. Yeah. Okay.
I got this one. I got this.
Let me just finish their argument just in case, but yeah.
Okay.
During the arc, she engages Darth Maul in direct combat. Not only that, but Ahsoka is incredibly confident as she fights against him. Darth Maul is around 35 years old at this point, having killed, bringing age into it anyway, having killed Master Qui-Gon Jinn in the years prior. Even so, Ahsoka defeats him in combat, leading to his subsequent capture. Yeah, Josh, what do you got? I think we got the same point, by the way.
So when little orphan Annie lost his hand to Dooku, greatly traumatized him.
Yeah.
He then built the lightsaber that he would, the legacy lightsaber. He would build it to be a perfect combat lightsaber. And he trained against a holocron of Darth Maul. He constantly trained, and that's what he used to fight against. Yeah. So therefore, when he trained Ahsoka, she learned how to fight Maul through him. So that's why Darth Maul wasn't really a problem for him, because Anakin studied so hard on how to fight Maul that he's like, hey, one day you're going to run into this guy type thing. Not like he knew, but like, this is someone to train against, and taught her how to fight someone like Maul, like he learned around her age.
Yeah. I thought that was a fantastic point, not the one I was going to make. So yeah, good job there. I would also want to mention that if you're going to pick on Ahsoka about being too strong as a Padawan, you got to pretty much pick on a lot of Star Wars characters, which I know people do, to be fair. And there's a lot of Star Wars characters, and yeah, let me dive into Jackie really quick, because in my opinion, with the Jackie stuff, people were complaining about that. It was like, yeah, but Jackie wasn't patient, she doesn't have that patience yet, so she's going right in, combat. I think that people take combat in Star Wars a little too seriously sometimes, and then I'm sorry, I feel like there's things that we all as fans take a little too seriously sometimes, but I see combat being one of those common things, and I would honestly say, like, if you think the Force is all about combat, you're misunderstanding the point. I think it's not. The combat portions, I hate to bring up an age-old argument, but really quick, I mean, Rey lived on her own on Jakku. She had to learn to defend herself. You saw it in The Force Awakens in the very beginning. She can defend herself with a stick. She just transferred that over to a saber. The combat portion, I could see arguments for Rey being underwritten, underdeveloped. That's fine. I'm not arguing that. What I'm arguing is just the point of, like, people who can do combat. It's really weird how we pick and choose that. Anyway, sorry. It's just the combat thing. It is a pet peeve of mine that people bring up.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's like there's lore explaining that Anakin trained how to fight Maul, so why wouldn't he give that to Ahsoka?
No, exactly. I just think that the combat portions are easier to pick up on than people realize. I think, or not. I'm not saying easy, but they're more. It's not just because you could fight with a lightsaber doesn't mean you could use the Force. They're two different things. Yeah.
To quote Luke, just because you can swing a laser sword around doesn't make you a Jedi.
Thank you. Yes, perfect. Thank you. Perfect point. That's exactly the point I was trying to make. And you have to. Yeah, come on, guys. let's be reasonable. All right. Lost my spot. There we go. She was never mentioned in Revenge of the Sith, despite being Anakin's Padawan. I'm going to stop you right there. All right, go ahead, Josh. Why don't you take this one too?
Yeah. So in A New Hope, there's a point where Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Kenobi, goes, "Oh, hello there, little fellow. I never owned a droid before." He doesn't know who R2 is.
Yeah.
But no, on top of it, she was court-martialed. She was kicked out of she fell out of the Jedi, So they're not gonna mention her. There's not really room to mention her.
Yeah.
Like, Anakin had so much other things going on that why would they bring her up? They're already worried about this man going to the dark side. They're like, hey, remember that one kid that, like, you kind of raised and how we furged with the wolves? Yeah. They're not gonna be like, hey, remember that, buddy? No, that's just not going to get brought up.
My response to that point is just simply this: please hang up the phone and try again. No, I mean, watch the final season of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, it explains where she's at.
That's all you got. That's all you need. They did a very good job with that. You could gripe on Disney Plus shows. You know who had good finales that we didn't mention? Bad Batch season 3 and Clone Wars the final season. Those are two good Disney Plus originals that had very great finales. All right, let's move into this. I did not expect this to be poo-poo on Screenrant Day, but like I didn't know that these were the points they were making, but it's fun to challenge them. Ahsoka gave up on Grogu, citing the Jedi teaching. Honestly, we'll see what they say here, because I might be able to agree. We'll see what they say, though. When Ahsoka sensed the Force growing in Grogu, she told Din Djarin that she should be trained in the way of the Jedi. She then tells the two to go to Tython, a planet both powerful in the Force and essential to the history of the Jedi. She does mention one thing, seems a bit odd for Ahsoka's character, making the interaction feel a bit off. Ahsoka tells Din Djarin that Grogu holds an attachment to him and tells him that she will not teach Grogu in the ways of the Force. Okay, let's see where they go with this. This is eventually what leads to Grogu being sent to Luke Skywalker for training, yeah. But would Ahsoka really deny someone because of their attachments after leaving the Jedi Order for the way they treated her? After all, okay, she goes on to train Sabine, who holds plenty of attachments herself.
She abandoned Sabine. She literally gave up on Sabine. And then Sabine came to her with the map to get Ezra.
Yeah.
I mean, she's training her again, but it's kind of her arm was twisted into it type thing. It was kind of get ready for what's coming type of training. Not like, oh, you are a Jedi now.
I'm going to say that there are good arguments and bad arguments in this. I do think that they make some good arguments for this point. The Sabine part of it, I agree with you. She does abandon Sabine. You know, she gets a little afraid, and that was part of the whole character arc and journey that Ahsoka goes on, which I think is greatly misunderstood in that show. You know, what she had to go through, you know, seeing the ghost or vision of Anakin, you know, whatever you want to interpret it as. A lot of that gets very misplaced and misunderstood, I feel, amongst a lot of people. But you are correct on the Sabine point. I think all of that made sense. I think bringing up Sabine didn't make sense. That was clearly shut down. I always did take a little bit of issue, to their credit. I did take a little bit of issue to Ahsoka holding on to so many Jedi ways, despite having left the Order. But I will say, go ahead, Josh. Yeah.
Okay, so if the Jedi way is kind of like a religion, right? You can still be a Christian and not like have the same views as the
I think
church.
what you're saying is you could still believe in God and not be a Christian.
Well, no. Like, you can still have the Christian value. It's a Christian faith. But if there's a church you're a part of and you get exiled from it,
no, true.
Doesn't mean you give up completely.
Good point. Yeah, no. I'll take that. I like that. You're right. Yeah, I can see both sides of the argument. How about that? Like, I think their argument is good. I can see your side of it. I can see their side of it. I do think that there's two different ways to interpret that. Like, I definitely see what you're saying. 100%. Like, yeah, no, it's a good point. I was, you know, for my own personal life, I was raised Catholic. There are values and things that religion taught me growing up that I hold on to, but I don't consider myself, I don't go to the church. You're right. 100%.
And if you think about it, for a while, I mean, she does say, I'm not a Jedi, while still doing the Jedi.
Yeah, no, it's like I still learned a lot of morals from that and things of that nature. But, yeah, no, you know what? But I could see both sides. I think that this is one of their more compelling arguments, with the exception of the Sabine that they threw in, because, like you said, I think you threw that one out pretty quick. Like, yeah, but she abandoned Sabine, finished the show. But I know you only got 3 episodes in your screeners there, but if you finish it off, no. Anyway, no. I'm picking on them here a little bit, but no. To be fair, like I think that they did make a good argument. Like I guess to see it from their perspective, like I get exactly what you're saying, because I experienced it in my personal life from your point. But to see it from their perspective, it's almost like, why would that be one of the things that she'd want to hold on to? You know what I mean?
I mean, because see, I see her holding on to it because, I mean, that's just the way of life. And just because a few people, you know, if a council kicks you out, it doesn't make all Jedi bad. And, you know, her giving it up could cause her to lead to the dark side, which she knows is possible. She still has to her master.
True. Good point. Yeah, good point.
So she's still going to hold the fundamentals.
Yeah, no, good point. I mean, if she's looking at what happened to Anakin, his attachment to Padme led him to the dark side.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good point. Okay, I agree with you more. I'll concede. Okay, I'll concede. I agree with you more, but I see where they were coming from on that at first. You know, like I see why they questioned it, but after your explanation, it's one of their better points in this article. That's all I'll say. But I'm leaning with you. I'll concede. Yeah, now thinking about Anakin's path, Ahsoka having to experience it, and then actually, yeah, by the time we do get to Ahsoka, she's already fought Anakin and realized he was Vader and all that. So, I'll concede. Yeah, I'll go with you on that. Yeah, 100%. All right. You rest your case, I guess. I was gonna say I rest my case, but I was like, I guess you rest your case. I digress is what I should say. All right, there we go. All right, fancy words. All right, Ahsoka disappears after the battle on Mandalore. Okay, or no, Malachor. I'm sorry, I misread that.
I was like, wait, did I read that right?
Yeah, I was like, okay. Where was she supposed to go with Mandalore? Anyway, sorry. For a good while in Star Wars Rebels, the show feels as though it is just as much about Ahsoka as it is about Ezra Bridger. You know, I'd argue that more for Clone Wars, but anyway, sorry, go ahead. I'll keep reading. She seems to become the main focus of the story of any scene she's in, dominating the story and continuing from her time in Star Wars Rebels. This is especially the case on the planet of Malachor, where she battles against her old master, become their fate. Hold on, let me see where they're going. After this foundational moment in her story, Ahsoka seems to just disappear. She is not seen again in the show until the very end, coming to take Sabine and supposedly go find Ezra after
Did they skip an episode?
They skipped the season. And he and Grand Admiral Thrawn were taken to Peridia. This is in spite of the fact that the Empire is still at large for much of the remaining episodes, meaning that Ahsoka has once again disappeared in the galaxy's time and need. You want to go ahead and take this one?
Yeah, actually, hold on. I'll give you a second. Hold on.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. Hold on. Hold on, one moment, kids. Hold on. There we go.
Sorry for the audio listeners. I'm just breaking. There I go. What?
Right underneath my name.
Right.
All caps.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. She was dead. That's where she went. You know, the whole Ezra going in a world between worlds and pulling. Is that why they didn't know she was a voice in Rise of Skywalker? Did they get the DVD set and then that episode just skipped and they went, well, all right, I guess she was in that pyramid for a while. Probably took a nap. I don't know.
I don't know. Hang on a minute.
Hey Dom. Hey Dom. You know what's my problem with this new episode of Acolyte? Where was Jackie? Where was Jackie? She has that big fight. Then where was Jackie? Where did she go? Where was she?
I was trying to go back through that argument to see if I missed something because I was like, there's no way they're making this argument right now.
All right, go back, read it one more time before we look like idiots. Go through that again, please.
Wait.
Oh.
Okay. I'm gonna read this article one more time.
One more time. If not, I'm excited for number one.
Let's break this down really quick, okay? Just so I'm really trying because I think Screenrant's a really good site usually. I'm really trying on this one. Doesn't mean all the writers are the best, but I'm trying here. For a good while in Star Wars Rebels, the show feels as though it is just as much about Ahsoka as a Bridger. Let me redefine. Let me paraphrase their good while. I think there's a good portion of season 2 where
she had an arc. Like, it was just like a 4-episode arc
for Ahsoka in season
Yeah.
2. She's definitely enough that you could say she's a character in Rebels. Like, she's almost a part of the Rebels crew in season 2.
Yeah.
Let's be fair. So, all right. So, just so I'm trying to stick with this, she seems to become the main focus of any scene she's in, dominating the story and continuing on from her time in Star Wars Rebels. So, wait, what? Hang on a second. So, she seems to become. I have to break the sentence into 2 pieces. She seems to become the main focus of any scene she's in. So, okay, I agree she's a scene stealer, right? Like, when she shows up in Rebels, she kind of steals the show there for a minute. Like, she really is a good, like, she's such a great addition to that. I love the Vader fight. I love when she saves Kanan and Ezra. So I'll agree with that. Dominating the story. There's still a lot of other pieces of the story, but okay, if that's how you took it, fine. And continuing on from her time in Star Wars Rebels. I'm struggling with this part of the sentence.
You know what? Actually, I have a point I'd like to bring up.
But aren't we talking about Star Wars Rebels?
I have a point, though. This is something that's been bugging me.
What?
Do you remember the episode where they had to break Hera out of prison? Do you remember that?
No. Yes, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Kanan goes in
when,
and all
when
that.
Thrawn takes her?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that arc.
Yeah, great episode.
Yeah.
And then that explosion happens, and Kanan pushes him back.
Yeah.
Where is he the rest of the show? He literally was one of the main characters. Where did he go?
Let me simplify what they're saying here. So basically what they've said in 2 sentences is Ahsoka was great in Star Wars Rebels. She stole every scene she was in. And in Star Wars Rebels, she was continuing her time from Star Wars Rebels. What? I'm going to pretend they didn't just write that. I'm going to pretend.
Wait, where's it at? Where is it?
Right here. For a good while in Star Wars Rebels, the show feels as though it is just as much about Ahsoka as it is Ezra Bridger. She seems to become the main focus of any scene she's in, dominating the story and continuing on from her time in Star Wars Rebels, which is the show that you were just talking about.
It sounds like,
they meant Clone Wars, right?
I'm pretty sure they had to make Clone Wars.
Okay, so that's part of our confusion right there. So let's pretend that typo doesn't exist. Okay, fine. I'm going to pretend they meant Clone Wars because
they're throwing shade at Ahsoka, but they can't even proofread.
I'm going to hope to God that they meant Clone Wars. This is especially the case on the planet of Malachor. I remember it very well, where she battles against her old master. I remember that very well, who has now become Darth Vader. Okay, I remember all this. After this foundational moment in her story, I agree. It's foundational. Ahsoka seems to just disappear.
Where'd she go?
You mean when she died?
Did it have to pop up on the screen to say Ahsoka's dead? And they're like, oh, like they couldn't catch it?
But that's what they're saying. When she died, let's stick with them here. Let's see if we can figure. Let's see if we can make sense of what they're trying to say here, Josh.
Bro, they got to be really confused with the New Hope when Obi-Wan disappears.
All right, so she is not seen again in the show until the very end. Yes, okay. So, yeah, okay. I think I see what they're trying to argue, but I don't. It still doesn't make sense. They still just misunderstood completely. But okay. Coming to take Sabine and supposedly go to find Ezra after he and Grand Admiral Thrawn were taken to Peridium. Okay, so I think what they misunderstood, I hope to God this is what they're trying to get at, but they misunderstood it still. It doesn't really help them. But I think what they misunderstood is that in the World Between Worlds, she returned to a different time. That time period was New Republic, which is where we are with Mando and all that. That's where she returned.
Yeah.
Anyway, hang on. So let's just read the rest of their argument. This is in spite of the fact that the Empire is still at large much of the remaining episodes. Yes, the point of the show. Meaning that Ahsoka has once again disappeared in the galaxy's time of need. Okay, I see what they're trying to say.
Yeah, they're saying if she was resurrected, where has she been this whole time? But she, yeah, as you said, she got resurrected in a different time.
But it's coming off like a fanboy complaining that their main character died. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it really is just coming off like the way they're writing it is entitled fanboy vibes. Like, it really is. It's just not working. I mean, like, let's be honest. Like you said, she died. And, look, Filoni had really good future plans for the character. Look, you got to remember, like, when they had split off, or these, not you, but Screenrant has to remember that when Ezra and Ahsoka had split off in the World Between Worlds, Palpatine was throwing, like, freaking Force lightning at them. They had to go quick. So Ahsoka could have ended up freaking anywhere. Let's be honest. And as we've come to learn now, it's in the age of the New Republic. You know, that's where she ended up. This was completely misunderstood. They've only had, I think, like one point that they've made where it's like, I disagree, but I see their point of view. I guess after rereading that, I can see what they're trying to say, but man, did they misunderstand that. Like, they missed the mark. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Not you, or not, I'm sorry, not Screen Rant. Sorry about that to you, because I just wasted your time. Anyway, let me, all right, into the audience. All right, anyway, Ahsoka has become, Ahsoka has become more of a Jedi after leaving the Order. Let's see, this is their number one point, Josh. This is their time to shine. When Ahsoka was a part of the Jedi Order, she was still just a young girl. Yeah, good job. At the time of her trial, and then when she leaves the Jedi Order, she is only 17 years old. She was still just as feisty as she always was, showing her dedication to helping others even afterward in situations like that of the Siege of Mandalore. Helping there when the Jedi would not. This is quite different. I'm trying to make sense of what they're saying here. This is quite different from when she appears in live action, as somehow in the time between leaving the Jedi or I apologize for my silence. I'm pretty sure Josh knows exactly where my mind's at right now. I'm gonna stop that right there. Okay.
Take it away, Dom. Take it away.
Remember earlier when we were questioning if they missed an episode?
Yeah.
I'm questioning if they watched Star Wars at all. Look, this sounds like it's being written by somebody who just skipped over Rebels. Like, or skimmed it or something, because I think this sounds like it's being written by somebody who got Cliff Notes for Rebels, watched Clone Wars and Ahsoka.
Or their friend told them about it. Like, oh, my friend was saying the other day. He hasn't watched the show.
Or their friend told them about it, correct. Yeah, I did not think, I thought, you know, because Screen Rant's usually a pretty good site, and I actually thought we were going to pull this up today, being like, you know, hey, this is just fun. This is a fun debate that we can have.
I'm having fun.
I'm having fun too, but not in the way I thought it was going to be. I did not think that they would ever. I'm sorry, I didn't want to make this about this, but like, I did not think Screen Rant would hire such an amateurist writer for this. It's actually quite unacceptable. Like, no offense, like, and it's fine to disagree on certain things.
Yeah.
That's one thing, and I thought that's what it was going to be, is like we'd either agree or disagree with the points. I thought it'd be a mix of, like, some of them would be like good points, you know. And I think I only did that about once in these, you know. I don't know, man. This article's anyway. You want to take that one? I forgot the point.
I don't remember what it was.
They were trying to make the point that Ahsoka's become more of a Jedi after leaving the Jedi Order.
Because she matured. Like, she's not with a feisty kid anymore. Yeah.
Screw up. Yeah.
And, like, once again, you can still carry the core values of the Jedi and disagree with the Council. Only the Sith deal in absolutes.
Let me be fair one last time. I'll give them the rest of this freaking point. All right, this is quite different from when she appears in live action, as somehow in the time between leaving the Jedi Order and the modern era, she has become more like a Jedi than ever before. Okay, what's the rest of the point? She denounces attachments as seen when she discusses Grogu's training with Din Djarin, and she even takes her own Padawan in Sabine Wren.
Begrudgingly takes her.
Right, during Ahsoka.
It's pretty much training her for the next big threat.
Yeah, Ahsoka Tano has become what the Jedi should have always aspired to be, showing that even in a time after the fall of the Jedi Order, Star Wars still has powerful Jedi to look up to. You know what really bothers me about this article, despite the fact that
they use the same topic or the same 2 points twice, pretty much.
Well, there's one thing, but another thing is like this is, again, without trying to get too far into some controversies that have been going on about Star Wars, like this is the type of thing that people are going to read and believe.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, I guess Star Wars just sucks now. You know, like let's pretend like somebody like just didn't have faith in the Ahsoka show. You know what I mean? And like because they got caught up in controversies that, you know, whatever. And then they read this article to try to get some education, and this is how they're educating them. You know what I mean? That's what bothers me about this so much. Like I actually brought this up because I actually thought it would be, and I did have fun. I'm not trying to say I'm not having fun, but I brought this up for a different kind of fun. Like I thought it'd be like, you know, we could dive into lore stuff and have like real deep conversations. And it just really bothers me that I guess I have to pre-read everything, you know, because I thought I could trust Screenrant to give us some really cool, like, because they're usually a pretty good site. But then I read something like this and I'm like, yeah. I'm baffled by the amateur research and writing, you know, and no offense, you know, I'm just like, I'm not a fan, you know, of this.
I mean, the glaring thing of like, oh, her coming off of from Rebels while they're talking about it was like, what kind? That's a big typo. Like that's come on, guys, yeah, man.
Here's what I think it came down to with this article. I think because the headline is 10 things that make no sense about Ahsoka Tano. I think when they said make no sense, I think what they're really saying is, this is my issue with it, is that they're saying 10 things that I didn't want to happen with Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah.
Rather, you know what I mean? That's
maybe like, I think they just did it for buzz. Like, oh, hey, click this article.
I think this is definitely out there to get people riled up, you know, which I really was trying to avoid diving into those types of things on this show, you know, but yeah, we did anyway. But yeah, it was an accident. Sorry, folks. I thought that this would be a different kind of fun, but all right, here we are. Look, man, I guess at the end of the day, I just disagree with all these points.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'll narrow it down to. I think everything that they said didn't make sense in this article just made sense. I just think that they got it wrong. And we explained, I think, in each one how it made sense. It feels like a lot of these points here were, and I'm seeing too many people being guilty of this, not just Screenrant, I've seen too many of these points, like, just being brought up, and it always comes off like, it's like, doesn't make sense. It's like, no, that's just not where you wanted it to go. It makes plenty of sense. You just wanted the story to go differently. That's how I feel a lot of the times I hear these things. Is just that. And yeah, I swear to you, I did not bring this up to try to make this point today, but here we are. I guess we can make a whole new different type of point. But that article was hilarious.
Yeah, some good things in there.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm excited for Ahsoka season 2. we could shift a little bit here, though. That's one of the things I'm just most looking forward to is season 2 of that. I again, man, I think that first season is it's a warm hug to me. You know, when I watch that, I'm cozy. I'm in the Star Wars feels the way I want it to be. But yeah, man, not really sure what to do with all that, but you know.
See that Bears game last week? Yeah, hell of a game. Bears got a great team this year. Oh, they're gonna go all the way.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Yeah. But yeah, let's go ahead and start wrapping up.
Yeah, about 2 hours.
Yeah, we got to our runtime.
Yeah.
A lot of runtime padding, if you ask me, but no, I'm kidding.
With no basil.
Yeah. Hey, I will say this. Last week, I think our first episode, it was just like so fun because it was just so new that we did this. And then last week I was like, I felt nerves, you know what I mean? Because I feel like maybe in my own mind, like I was trying to like match up to like how fun the first episode was. And like I'll be just upfront, like I was feeling some nerves throughout the last week's recording. But I re-listened to it, because the only reason I ever do that is not to hear the own sound of my voice. It's because I feel like re-listening just makes me better at doing this, and so I always just do it at least once with everything I record. But last week I listened to it and I was like, just as natural. I thought like we did just as well, and I was so impressed. Like it was a conversation I was still hooked into. I felt just as much, and I was impressed. Like even though it didn't feel that way in the moment, but I think a lot of that was pressure I was putting on myself. Well,
also it could be like, I mean, we had more to cover in the first episode because we covered 4 episodes of a show, and this we were covering one 20-minute show.
Yeah, you're right.
So that could also be it. That at the time it didn't feel too in depth or grandiose. Yeah,
no, it was great because it still felt just as natural, and I thought the conversation was just as fun. And and I guess my point to that is like I love that now coming into this episode of doing this. It's like for me, like I just feel like pressure's off. Like just do what we do, and I love
fun.
that.
If it works, and try again next week.
Yeah, exactly, and I love that. But also, I will follow that up with a disclaimer. We did have a couple little areas in that last episode where my audio was cutting out, and I realized it was my noise suppression, so I just wanted to throw an apology out for that. Like, you can hear most of everything, don't get me wrong, like 99% of that conversation, 99.9% of that conversation is there, but there's like a 0.01% that was cutting out on my end, and I just wanted to apologize. That was my noise suppression. I did get that fixed today before I just didn't have my gain up loud enough. So I just had to turn it up a little bit so it caught everything through my noise suppression that I have on here, and I'll make sure I test that moving forward. So I just want to throw out a quick apology for that.
Still getting the hiccups out, so knocking it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. But either way, man, I had fun again. I think that this is, I still say this is my favorite show I do on the channel. So I'll keep saying that every week, hopefully, and every week is a new adventure, and some things are unpredictable, like today's article that we just read that I am not interested in reading again. So yeah, there we go. Anyway, look, thank you guys again for joining. This has been Starlight Shadows again. Josh, where can people find you?
On Starlight Shadows. And my new show when it comes out, we just filmed the 3rd episode.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite one. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
I won't spoil it, but I really, really enjoyed it, and it's coming. I
can't wait to see the first one.
I've seen test edits, a lot of stuff on there I'm impressed with. So it looks good. Looks a lot of fun. So keep an eye out.
All right.
We do officially have a name. I just won't debut it yet because
gotcha. Yeah.
When we found it, when we came to it, we were shocked that no one took it yet.
10-4.
So we're sitting on it.
Understood.
But I'll tell you after hours.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, man. I'm excited to check all that out. Let us know once you got more updates on that. And sorry, when I took a drink just now, like went up my nose a little bit because I fell out of the other side of the bottle. So apologize. Yeah. One thing I will say really quick. One thing positively this article did for me is it made me want to watch some Rebels tonight. So I might end up.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
So you guys can find me watching Rebels, I guess. No, you guys can find me on X at Dom_Martino_ on Instagram, Dom_Martino_ official. Please follow the Extract Media pages at Extract Media blog on Twitter and Instagram, both. And then we are also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts early, actually. So that's a little incentive. Make sure you guys follow the Extract Media page or feed on those. So much appreciated. As much fun as usual, Josh. Thanks for being here, and thank you guys for listening.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you guys for watching, joining, whatever you're doing, however you're doing it. We always appreciate it. And tell your friends who like Star Wars that we're out here doing the damn thing. So appreciate it. Yeah, thanks, guys. We will talk to you guys later.
See ya.